one of the most profound movements and one of the first real social movement in American history was all about slavery, and that's labor. And it was about creating a different kind of democracy, different kind of way of thinking about the economy. And I think these battles aren't over. The African American portion of American wealth as a whole is 3% today. And the last time it was 3% was in 1868, 3 years after slavery. African Americans going back to before the Civil War, and the earliest African American spokespersons and writers and leaders like Frederick Douglass and others argued that the fundamental feature of the American economy was dehumanization. And they also argued that you can't have a democratic constitution and an economic system that degrades and exploits people. Many of the radical Republicans who fought for the Civil War and in the Civil War believed the same thing. I think the true intent of the 13th Amendment wasn't just to eliminate chattel slavery. It was to eliminate all forms of economic oppression and create what we would now call living wages for everybody. I think that was the true intent. But these things were overthrown. After the Civil War, there was a counter-revolution, Lincoln's assassination, the destruction of Reconstruction. We got segregation, which wasn't just about making white people feel superior, it was about a cheap labor force, which persisted. The 1963 March on Washington, where everyone sees Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech. Well, King wasn't head of that march. A. Philip Randolph was, the first black trade union president. The demand of the march was for jobs and freedom. Jobs came even before freedom. That sort of dream of a new kind of economy was tightly connected with thinking about voting rights and a new kind of politics. And when African Americans said we refuse to work as basically semi-slave laborers with no rights and no voting rights and no protections, and my generation said we're not going to do that work that our parents did, then employers started bringing undocumented immigrants into the country to work with no rights and no protections. And when the government said, well, what are we going to do with all these young folks like me who don't want to do this kind of semi-slave work? They didn't reform the economy. They said, let's lock them up. And we got mass incarceration. And so I think all of these things are related to our history. All of these things are part of the challenge of changing the system. And the system connects these things.
This is why you took a second job. While you taught yourself how to fix the plumbing. While you'll do whatever it takes to keep your home. And that is why we want to help. We are making home affordable, a free government resource that can make paying the mortgage easier. Call 888-995-HOPE today.
Monday, here we go. Hello, everybody. It is Monday, February 22nd. Good to see you today. Hope you had a great weekend. Ready to roll into the news of this week. It's going to be, it was a big week last week. It's going to be another big one on the political front, certainly a big political weekend with the Republican primary down in South Carolina on Saturday, and also the Democratic caucuses out in Nevada on Saturday. Kept you busy. At least we knew relatively early on the East Coast, relatively early across the country, how those two contests went. And as we know, in Nevada, Hillary Clinton bouncing back, beating Bernie Sanders by 6 points. She did very well among union workers, very well among African Americans. Bernie Sanders, it looked like, edged her out in Latino voters thanks to the overwhelming support he had again of people under 30. It's the youth campaign for Bernie Sanders, which is somewhat ironic at any rate. And both candidates now roll into South Carolina, where Hillary Clinton clearly has the edge. And then on to Super Tuesday, March 1. For Republicans, what a blowout for Donald Trump, coming out 10 points ahead of the entire field, winning every one of the 50 delegates up for stake on Saturday in South Carolina. Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz basically tying for second place, although Rubio edged Cruz out by maybe 1,000 votes. And Ben Carson and John Kasich are still for some reason hanging in, but Jeb Bush recognized reality and he folded his campaign. So now it is a three-man race on the Republican side, and they roll into Nevada for their caucuses on Tuesday, and then the big Democratic primary in South Carolina next Saturday. Hard to keep up with it all. The way to do so is to stay tuned right here every morning to the Bill Press Show. Good to have you with us.
This is the Bill Press Show.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Columbine, Virginia Tech,
Tucson,
Aurora,
Fort Hood, Oak Creek,
Newtown.
Newtown,
Newtown.
Newtown.
How many more?
How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls?
How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
Enough.
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 Demand a plan.
Right now. As a mom.
As a dad. As a friend. As a husband.
As a wife.
As an American.
As an American.
As an American.
As a human being.
For the children of Sandy Hook.
Demand a plan. No more lists of names. It's not too soon.
It's too late.
Now is the time.
Before we all know someone who loved someone on that list.
No more lists.
No more.
Who they might have been. No more.
If we had just done something yesterday. It's time.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than this.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for our leaders to act.
Demand a plan. Right now.
Right now.
You! Demand it!
Enough.
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 You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC. or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
It was a big political weekend. Donald Trump trouncing the others in South Carolina, and Hillary Clinton running away from Nevada with a big win over Bernie Sanders. Hello, everybody. What do you say? Here we go on this Monday, February 22nd. Happy George Washington's birthday. Remember that?
That's right.
We used to celebrate. This used to be a holiday for George Washington's birthday. Now we just ignore him and lump him in with all the rest of the presidents. Great to see you today. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Bill Press Show. Yes, coming off the South Carolina primary for Republicans and the Nevada caucuses for Democrats. It was a great big weekend. And I'm coming off a late night, overnight CNN appearance on Saturday, Sunday, and a big hour on C-SPAN last night with Brian Lamb talking about buyer's remorse. So hope you caught some of that. And now rolling right into today's Bill Press Show, coming to you live from our studio here on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C., with our team all assembled together, Peter Ogburn and Jamie Benson.
Happy Monday.
Good morning.
Hello.
Here we go.
Yep. Thank you, Peter, for being here on Friday.
Oh, yes, indeed.
Keeping things afloat, I guess.
Everyone's ready to have you back. Right. Yeah, thank you. Yes.
And we have our new microphones.
We do.
Yeah.
Well, they're not new microphones. We got new mic stands. It's a new look to the. All right. It's a new look to the studio.
Right. Yeah, it's part of the new look. The last mic stands were like up
a little higher.
No, these are nice. A little lower.
Phase 2 of the new studio.
That's right.
Is that right? And then the next week you have them down to here. Is that it?
Yeah. Phase 3.
That's right. Yeah. You're giving away Phase 3. Don't even talk about Phase 4 yet. Good grief.
All part of our new look in the studio. If you haven't seen it yet, check it out. Ray Rogers here. Ready to take your calls, 866-55-PRESS. That's our toll-free number. And Cyprian Balding, yes, here in his cave, keeping the keeping the cameras and the lights operating here, our videographer. And so, goodbye, Jeb.
Oh, man.
No, I'm sorry. Goodbye, Jeb! Yeah.
Farewell,
right.
Jeb.
Farewell, Jeb. Had to happen, was going to happen. We knew it was going to happen, but it was still sad to see it happen. And you wonder what's next in Jeb's life, right? Well, one thing that is not on the horizon, he made clear that yesterday.
Governor, would you consider being Donald Trump's vice president?
No. and let's be clear, I don't think he would ask me.
Right, yeah, exactly.
I'm pretty sure he's not going to ask him, no. I mean, we all know Joe Scarborough's got that lined up.
Oh, man. Yeah, I have to be honest. It's bittersweet to say farewell to Jeb because Jeb, if you look at who's left, Jeb was the last of the sort of, maybe John Kasich, but he was like the last of the common sense guys who had a real shot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm not here to say what a great president Jeb would be, but I think he wouldn't be a lunatic in the White House.
And I don't think he would be as extreme as his brother was.
No, I don't think so either.
No, I know. I sort of have a, look, he's not, I would never vote for him.
Sure, of course.
But I think among the Bushes, he's the best of the Bushes. And I thought at one time he might emerge on the theory that, as we saw before, the crazies dominate the primaries until people in the Republican Party wake up and say, now we have to act like grown-ups, and we have to have somebody there that we can actually hold our head up high and say he's our nominee, right? It looks like they're not going to do that
No,
this time.
it looks like they...
And if they were going to do it, it could have been Christie.
Mm-hmm.
It could have been Kasich. It could have been Jeb Bush.
Yeah.
But not going to be.
Not going to happen.
And nope. So I don't know.
So, I mean, we're looking at a three-man
Maybe
race
he can go back and work on the tree farm. With his brother.
Oh,
yeah.
There's still George P. It's not over.
Oh, there are plenty more bushes
Dynasty
in the
is
pipeline.
not done.
Oh, yeah, no,
there are plenty more bushes on the pipeline.
No, I've had it with all the.
I know.
I know. Right, and then Chelsea. I mean,
yeah.
Come on.
Whoa.
No,
right.
No, we don't need political dynasties. And then all those Romneys, Jesus. And then Trump, he's got how many sons does he have?
Oh my God, yeah, he's got three.
come on.
Yeah, so
yeah,
and he's got the daughter Ivanka.
I think we ought to pass a law, right? If your daddy was president or your mommy was president someday, boom, you disqualified. You're disqualified. All right. That's the new press law of American politics.
The law of the press.
Hey, lots to talk about, including Donald Trump's big win. Can anybody stop him now? 866-55-PRESS. We have reporters coming in from Salon, from the National Journal, from CNN, and from the New York Times. But first...
This is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news while we're talking about 2016. Let's talk about Ted Cruz, because one of his big supporters is Glenn Beck. And Glenn Beck was so shaken up by the loss in South Carolina that he posted on Facebook, quote, "I would like to ask you to join me and my family on Monday in a fast for Ted Cruz, our country, and the Nevada caucus. He is starting a fast today only so that he can help support Ted Cruz." No comment.
It's kind of weak. One day?
No. I mean, look, fasting for one day is not that big of a deal, right? I mean, or is that a thing?
Plus, to me, fasting is something like sacred. Like there's some really high moral cause for which you would fast, right? I mean, to see Ted Cruz win in Nevada hardly merits a fast. I don't care.
So you're saying you're not going to be fasting for Ted Cruz?
That's right. Give me something to eat right now.
I'm not even hungry. I want to eat something now just to prove how against this I am. My goodness, what a day yesterday in the NBA. Anthony Davis, he's 22 years old, is the player for the New Orleans Pelicans. They were playing the Detroit Pistons yesterday, and he had a career game. 59 points and 20 rebounds. He's an absolute monster. Unfortunately, the Pelicans are just not that great this year, but he was obviously the big deciding factor in the game. They went on to win that game, due in large part to his contribution. 59 points, man. That's
for those of you in DC. He's here tomorrow night. The Pelicans play the Wizards. So
right,
if you want to see that freaky nature in person.
I've never seen him in person, but he's got to be. He's just a gigantic dude.
Yeah.
He could do it all. And in Boston, there is a plan that has a lot of residents rattled. By that, I mean there is an off-limits, uninhabited island in Massachusetts' largest body of water, and the state says that they want to establish a colony of rattlesnakes. Rattlesnakes. It's the State Division of Fisheries and Wildlife. They're directing this project. It's a 39-square-mile island that, again, is totally uninhabited.
Yeah.
And they said that they want to be able to sort of have these snakes where they're going to be able to study their behavior and just sort of keep them there. People are obviously upset. They're saying that they're putting these snakes in a public place and they're going to breed, and then people will never be able to visit that island again.
You know, I'm okay with this, but I read that story. There were some people like on the mainland are afraid that these snakes are going to swim across and attack their poodles.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
it's not going to happen.
Yeah, no, it's not going to happen.
They should shoot a horror film though on that island. It'd be fun.
Yeah, right? Rattlesnake Island.
The
Revenge of Rattlesnake
I
Island.
hope they rename it, right? Rattlesnake.
Rattlesnake Island, yeah, right.
Yeah, but these apparently this is I saw this. There has not been a person bitten by a rattlesnake in Massachusetts since colonial times.
Is that right?
Yes.
Oh,
right.
that's funny.
One guy had his dog bitten. But
Stop
you know what happens?
freaking
A dog
out.
will step on a rattlesnake.
Yeah. Stop freaking
Rattlesnakes are not like aggressive. They don't come after and attack you.
Right.
Right. You step on them.
Yeah.
You put your hand on their
Someone
ledge or something, they may bite you. But
someone stepped on me, I might bite him too.
Damn right. All right, rattlesnake. Yes, indeed. It was a big-time blowout for Donald Trump. So the question is, right now, 866-55-PRESS, come on, let's get into it. Is he unstoppable now? You may have heard me say that if you're watching early in the morning on Sunday morning on CNN. I said absolutely. Who's going to stop him and where? The problem is, and you have heard me say this since there were 17 candidates, Republican candidates. Now there are effectively 3. Come on, Ben Carson, get out of here. Come on. John Kasich, love you, babe. Go home to Ohio. It's over. It's over, right? There are 3 candidates. Donald Trump, Ted Cruz, Marco Rubio. Jeb Bush has dropped out, as we know. But you heard me say back when there were 17 candidates that the only way you can beat Donald Trump is if everybody else coalesced behind one candidate. How they figure that out, I don't know. They draw straws, they flip a coin, they play bingo, I don't know, arm wrestle. But you can beat A with B. You can't beat A with B, C, D, F, G, boom, 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 right? And you can't even beat candidate A, Donald Trump, with B and C. Mm-hmm. If you look at the math, Donald Trump gets 33%, right, roughly, in South Carolina, and Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio both get like 22. So he beats him by 10. Together they could beat him. But all he has to do, if they continue in there, is to continue to get his 33%. Never close to 50 is 33%. And Donald Trump is going to win. I got to tell you, he is going to win. He's like 20 points ahead in the polls in Nevada, which are tomorrow. So there's no time. There's really no time between South Carolina and Nevada for the Republicans.
You can't.
Right?
You're not going to be able to make any real moves there.
Right. Yeah. No. I mean, they went out this weekend and they had rallies, and they'll have some rallies today, and then tomorrow are the caucuses. So Donald Trump's going to win Nevada, and then a week from that is March 1, Super Tuesday. And if Donald Trump runs the table on Super Tuesday, and all the Republican electoral math specialists, if you will, that I've seen say that's most likely he'll run the table on Tuesday, Donald Trump, I would say, is unstoppable. And the Republicans are stuck with the guy that they created. On all of this anti-government, anti-Washington, stop everything, tear everything down, that they have not just tolerated, but actually encouraged on the part of the Tea Party and others, all combines into the person of Donald Trump. They planted the seeds of evil, and evil has come back and is leading the pack right now. And I don't think they can stop him.
That's what I was going to ask you, right? So there's all this speculation about whether or not Donald Trump could turn all this stuff into votes. And he wasn't able to do it in Iowa, but he was able to do it in New Hampshire.
Oh, my God. Look, he just walked in.
I see it changing.
Look, he walked in.
I know. So he turned it into something in New Hampshire. He turned it into something in South Carolina. At what point does he lose? Right? Like, what would have to happen?
That's what I want to know. I don't
lose?
see it. I don't see anybody or any time where they could stop him. So Donald Trump, he by the way, I listened to his speech after he won. He's still, I don't get it. I mean, I don't get why anybody with half a brain can listen to him and vote for him, right?
It's crazy, man.
and be proud of voting for him. Like he just says, yeah, we're going to build a wall. We're going to build a wall. You know, who's going to pay for the wall? Everybody in Mexico, And then we're going to get rid of Obamacare. But what you're going to get after is going to be better. It's going to be cheaper, and it's going to be. And then we're going and jobs. We're going to create all. We're just going to do that. Millions of jobs. Yeah, he doesn't. There's nothing. There's no platform. Nope. He just rattles this stuff off. So here he is congratulating all the other candidates and talking about how tough it is to run for president.
I just want to congratulate the other candidates. There's nothing easy about running for president, I can tell you. It's tough, it's nasty, it's mean, it's vicious, it's beautiful.
Only he would say that.
I know. Then he reaches over, pats his daughter's belly, brings her to the microphone. Brings his wife to the microphone. Honest to God, it is.
Yeah, his wife spoke for the first time. We hadn't heard her speak at all in the campaign.
No.
She showed up.
And then there's Marco Rubio, who has yet to win a primary. He came in 5th. He came in 3rd. He came in 2nd. Let's give him a second. It was just by, again, roughly 1,000 votes in South Carolina. And every time he doesn't win, he talks about being the 45th president of the United States.
Yeah.
The 21st century conservative movement is the son of a bartender and a maid from Cuba, who tonight stands one step closer to being the 45th president of the United States of America.
I mean, this messianic almost, message of his that he puts out there that I'm the one, I'm the anointed one. Now, you got to win a primary.
He came in 3rd in Iowa. He came in 5th. In New Hampshire, and he came in 2nd in South Carolina.
Right.
All right.
But the man of the hour,
and by the way, that was almost a tie with Ted Cruz.
Oh,
it was a virtual tie for 2nd.
Yeah, absolutely. So the man of the hour clearly is Donald Trump, and we've been making fun of him since last June when he jumped in. But I'm telling you, he's on top of the pack, I don't see any way you can dislodge him. It's reported today Mitt Romney is going to endorse Marco Rubio. But Donald Trump is winning. He is scoring. Can he possibly be stopped? Could Donald Trump be? Don't you agree with me? Donald Trump today is the Republican nominee for president. Oh, my God. 866-55-PRESS. Let's talk about it here on the Bill Press Show this Monday, February 22nd. And
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
Today, in this country, we are having a conversation about police violence, the killing of black men, and what all that means. It is sad that this is happening and that every day there's a new incident to cause us to keep thinking about it and talking about it. But it is extraordinary that the American people are having to deal with this every day, whether you're watching CNN or MSNBC, Fox, or ABC News. All the news channels are talking about police violence and what does that mean against black people. Many people probably look at that, certainly have looked at it in the past, and they have said that these poor black men are doing bad things, and that's why they are ending up in confrontations with police without any understanding of their lives of these poor black young men. Part of what has been going on for decades is that poor black people live in communities that suffer from hyper surveillance of the police. The police are more likely to be in their communities. The police are more likely to arrest them. The police are more likely to stop them even if they're not doing anything. And that is what is so hard for the American people to believe, that you would get stopped and searched and arrested by the police and not doing anything. But this is starting to come out as people are telling the stories over and over again. But this has been the condition, this hyper-surveillance by police, making it more likely for people to get a record, to be known by the police, and then once they get in the system, it is almost impossible to get out because of the whole system of being on parole and missing an appointment or fraternizing with a person who has a criminal record, getting you right back in the jail, and then going back again and again and again. This is coming to be seen by the American people in a way that it has never been seen before. But why are people in these communities in the first place? That's getting peeled away. People are there because of housing discrimination. They are there because this is the only place where affordable housing can be found. They are there because that's where their families live, and people are drawn to being in communities where they are comfortable. The combination keeps people in these low-income communities where they are an easy target for hyper-surveillance and then everything that comes from it. And so as we think about these issues, we have to understand that while you as an individual in this society, as a white individual, you may not carry personal racism, but that does not keep the system from operating in a racist way.
I grew up in the housing projects of Cleveland. I didn't even know that life could be any better than it was. Education for me has been a way to get away from the agony of what was normal life. I want to be able to impact the community, not just look back on where I came from, but to reach back to where I came from and pull some people up with me. My name is David, and I am your dividend.
This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, 27 minutes after the hour. Yes, the Trump romping through South Carolina, getting all 50 delegates in South Carolina. Man. Yeah, and he won among every group, right?
Yeah.
Not African Americans, because I don't think there are any in the Republican Party. But,
right.
You know, he won among evangelicals, he won among young, he won among old, he won among men and women. And what was going to be supposedly Ted Cruz territory with the evangelicals, he carried all of those counties. Donald Trump.
By a lot.
Yeah.
By a lot.
Right. And March 1 coming up, 14 states, I believe, and including Texas, where we find Anita down in San Antonio. What do you say, Anita?
Hey, Bill.
Hi.
Good morning, everyone.
Hey.
I just don't see how Donald Trump can lose unless Marco Rubio or Ted Cruz get out of the race. And neither one of those guys are going anywhere.
I think you're right. You know, if not all of their votes, right? Let's say Ted Cruz dropped. Not all of his votes would go to Donald Trump, to Marco Rubio, right? But enough would go to Marco Rubio, I think, that then you could have a two-man race.
Well, yeah, but I don't think Ted Cruz is ever leaving.
No
You got to drag him out.
And by the way, I don't think Marco Rubio is ever leaving either. And so they could together be responsible for giving the Republican Party Donald Trump. When we come back, more calls, 866-55-PRESS. And let's talk about Donald Trump is a repudiation of today's Republican Party.
This is the Bill Press Show.
You taught him how to hit a baseball.
Just like that. Say hi.
How to hit a receiver.
Nice.
The strike zone. The net. You taught him how to hit the upper corner. You You even taught him how to hit the open man. But how much time have you spent teaching him what not to hit?
Calls me googly eyes.
You know you're beautiful, right? You know that?
Even you are beautiful. I got bullied for wearing glasses. Share if you're against bullying.
We put it out there, just took off. 3 million people have shared this post. Don't let bullies get you down. I stand with you. The whole family's wearing glasses. I wear glasses and I'm proud.
I even have the army on my team.
All the kind comments brought my child joy. I don't feel thank you is enough.
Next.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
All right, 34 minutes after the hour, rolling along here with this Monday edition of the Bill Press Show. Coming off the Democratic caucuses in Nevada, which we'll talk about a little bit later in the program, and the Republican primary in South Carolina, where Donald Trump rolls up. So he came in second, big-time win in Iowa, big-time win in New Hampshire, big-time win Saturday in South Carolina. Rolling into Nevada caucuses for Republicans tomorrow, and then Super Tuesday next Tuesday. Donald Trump sweeps the table there, which it looks like he will in the next 12, 13 states. Donald Trump, I believe, is unstoppable. How about you? 866-55-PRESS.
We're also on Twitter at BP Show, where Jessica says, look up the word delirious in the dictionary, and you'll find a picture of the Republican presidential candidates. Also, Sandy weighs in, says if you add Bush's and Kasich's numbers to Rubio, and then he beats the other two on the GOP ticket, which is worth pointing out that just because someone supports Bush or Kasich doesn't mean they're automatically going to support Rubio. Trump could get some of those numbers.
Yeah, and Trump made that point the other day.
Yeah.
He said that if you add all these up, you have to believe I'll get some of all of them, right? And all he needs, is maybe half or even less of what Rubio gets or what Cruz is getting or what Kasich is getting. They're not all going to go to those other candidates.
I mean, there are a lot of people out there who are making a lot of money as pundits these days who will just tell you that, oh, well, when Rubio drops out or Cruz drops out, those votes will automatically go to the other semi-establishment candidate, right? Like if Cruz drops out, Rubio would just automatically get it, and that's enough to beat Donald Trump.
Yeah.
But they forget that, there's a good chance that some of those people will go to Trump. At least part of them.
Yeah. And I must say, I have a hard time understanding for anybody with half a brain, what the appeal of Donald Trump is. I know he's a big celebrity, right? I know he's a colorful character. I'd even be willing to grant him that he's a successful businessman, although I have my doubts about that. I don't know how real those deals are. But, I was in New York this weekend for CNN. Yeah, I walked by Trump this and Trump that. I mean, Midtown Manhattan, right? It's Trump City, right? So he's got his name on some big stuff. He has made a lot of money. But what does he know about public policy? I haven't seen it yet. What does he know really about governing?
We're I think not far from sort of a media, because I think the media has played such a big role in putting Donald Trump where he is, right? I mean,
huge.
Gigantic, right? I mean, he doesn't. When you look at all the numbers that Jeb had to pay for his ads,
right?
That's just to break through some of the noise of Donald Trump being asked to be a guest on any show at any time and him doing it.
Yeah, he now has said the media is not like giving him a fair shake. We talked about this Sunday morning on CNN, and David Gergen and we both made the same point, which is Donald Trump should be on his knees thanking the media.
Oh, yeah.
He is only where he is for one reason, because of all the free media that he's gotten.
Yep.
He is a guy who can call any show, anytime. The only one, even the Sunday shows will take on the phone. So Jeb Bush spent $150 million. He probably spent $1 million a vote, almost.
Pretty much.
Right. Donald Trump has spent his campaign has spent a total of $17 million, which is chump change.
That is
chump
unbelievable.
Change. And the reason he hasn't had to spend any more than that is because media's been giving it to him for free.
Why would he?
Yeah. Isabella, calling up in Baltimore. What do you think, Isabella? Is he going to go all the way?
Oh, yeah, he's going to go all the way to the nomination. And good morning to you fellas.
Hi, Guy. Hi, Isabella.
Hey. He's going to go all the way to the nomination, but he won't win the general election. He has no substance. All he do is yell out, fire, fire, fire in the theater, and there's nothing to back it up. He has no fireman. He has no plan.
I think you're absolutely right, Isabella. I mean, I do think he'll be the nominee, but, man, I have more faith in the American people than to elect Donald Trump president of the United States. Boy, that would be the scariest thing that ever happened.
I will say this, though. I would take it seriously. I mean, there are a lot of people, especially Democrats, who say, oh, this is going to be a breeze. This is going to be a cakewalk. If it's Donald Trump, who could possibly vote for Donald Trump? He's clearly a dangerous guy when it comes to running a campaign. He can win an election. He has won some primaries. It looks like he's going to get the nomination. We should not take it as a joke. From moving forward, you can't take it as a joke.
Yes. In the interest of full disclosure, I have 3 brothers. One of them is supporting Donald Trump.
Oh, man.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And I love him to death.
Yeah.
But it just shows you, even somebody as smart as a press. By the way, it is worth mentioning with Donald Trump. I mean, he is the result, I believe, again, I think it's clear, of this total obstructionism, total anti-government, total Tea Party takeover of the Republican Party. That the Republican Party have let the Tea Party take them over, and now they get a guy like Donald Trump, and they're stuck with him. But when you think about it, Donald Trump is the repudiation of everything the Republican Party has stood for, like for the last 8 or 12 years. Donald Trump is a guy who says the Iraq War was a big mistake. Donald Trump is a guy who still says Planned Parenthood does a lot of really good things.
Mm-hmm.
Donald Trump is the guy who has said he is, who knows now, has said he is totally 100% pro-choice.
Mm-hmm.
Donald Trump
He came out for the mandate, the Obamacare mandate, right before the election.
No, right. He supports single-payer health insurance, like Bernie Sanders, and he certainly supports the individual mandate. As he always says, we're going to repeal Obamacare. But he says the essence of Obamacare, the centerpiece of it is the individual mandate, you pointed out, Peter, which Donald Trump supports. Donald Trump says he would not cut Social Security and would not cut Medicare. So, in a sense, he's the un-Republican candidate among the Republicans. Now, that's one thing you sort of have to say. The Republican Party is getting what it deserves when they get Donald Trump.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah. You want all this negativism? Well, now you got a guy who's against the establishment, including the Republican establishment. And by the way, again, we did see the end of the campaign of Jeb Bush. We mentioned, played a little bit earlier, his, I guess we haven't yet, no, where Jeb said, this is the end of the road for me.
The people of Iowa and New Hampshire and South Carolina have spoken, and I really respect their decision. So tonight, I am suspending my campaign. And,
in many ways, we're going to miss Jeb, right? We're going to miss him.
Yeah, of course we will.
He had some funny moments where you sort of saw the real Jeb here. Here's a little medley of Jeb on the trail.
40 years ago, I smoked marijuana, and I admit it. I'm sure that other people might have done it and may not want to say it in front of 25 million people. My mom's not happy that I just did. I saw that there's a Supergirl is on TV. I saw it when I was working out this morning. She looked pretty hot. You find a Democrat that's for cutting taxes, cutting spending $10? I'll give him a warm kiss. Homeland. I'd like to be on Homeland. Where I kill a terrorist with my bare hands. But I'm my own man, and my views are shaped by my own thinking and my own experiences.
So we will close this morning with word association.
I don't like this.
Trump. Just one word.
Loser.
Okay.
Oh my God. I got a lot of really cool things that I could do other than sit around being miserable, listening to people demonize me and me feeling compelled to demonize them. That is a joke. Elect Trump if you want that. Please clap.
Please clap.
Yeah, elect Trump if you want somebody who's going to demonize people. Well, there he goes. Goodbye, Jeb. And hello, Elias Isquith from Salon Magazine joins us next here on The Bill Press Show.
Your place to talk about the 2016 election. This is The Bill Press Show.
A letter to the girl I used to be. Dear Emily, Every time I watch baseball, a voice I no longer recognize whispers, "Ethan, do you remember? When you were going to be the first girl to play in the Major League Seattle Mariners rally cap." But to be honest, Emily, I don't. Dad told me that like it was someone else's bedtime story. But I do know you had that drive. Didn't let anyone tell you to wear shorts above your knees. Didn't care if boys thought your hair fell on your shoulders just right, but with girls, sleepovers meant the space between your shoulder and hers was a 6-inch fatal territory. The year you turned 11 was the first time you said out loud that you didn't want to live anymore. In therapy, you said you wouldn't make it to 21. On my 21st birthday, I thought about you. You were right. At 19, you started to fade. I tried to cross you out like a line in my memoir I wished I could erase completely. And maybe I'm misunderstanding the definition of death, but even though parts of you still exist, you are not here. Most of my friends have never heard your name until now. I've been trying to write this letter for 6 months. I still can't decide if it should be an apology or not. But now you will never hear Emily Smith announced at a college graduation. Get married. Give birth. When the prescribed testosterone started taking effect, my body stopped producing the potential for new life every month. I thought about your children, how I wanted them too. I let a doctor remove your breasts so that I could stand up straighter. Now, even if I somehow had those children, I wouldn't be able to nourish them. My body is obsolete, scarred cosmetic, but never C-section. I was 4 days late. They will never be grandparents. I was 1 week late. They will never hold their lover's sleeping figure. I was 11 days late. They will never breathe in a sunset and a sunrise in the same night. I was 2 weeks late. They will never learn to jump rope. I was 3 weeks late. They will never shout, "Watch, Mommy, watch me on the slide." I was 2 months late. A piece of us will never wrap their arms around our leg for comfort, but just to keep them from falling down. And I am sorry that this process is so slow, and all you can do is wonder if you ever had a place. You did. You still do. Don't forget that. Yours, Ethan. P.S. I never hated you.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
Here we go now at 13 minutes before the top of the hour. Marco Rubio coming in barely second, basically tying with Ted Cruz. But to hear Marco Rubio say, he is just a breath away, a heartbeat away from being the 45th president of the United States.
Almost, buddy.
Without yet winning a primary, and doesn't look like he's going to win any on Super Tuesday either, and certainly not going to win in Nevada. Elias Isquith joins us from Salon.com. Hey, Elias, good morning. Good to have you with us again.
Hey, Bill. How's it going?
All right. So you've been writing about Marco Rubio. He keeps on immigration, keeps veering far and farther from where he started out, right?
Yeah, he does. This has sort of been a pattern throughout his whole, at least on the national stage, his whole career, which is that he tries to plant his flag sort of in the center, and then whatever the time is left on the clock, he spends backtracking and moving to the right, basically because he can't seal the deal with his supposedly centrist position. So yeah, before, Rubio's sort of his selling point to some degree was that he was going to, if not get immigration reform passed, he was just going to persuade at least those voters who see Republican opposition to it as basically racist. He was going to say, you don't need to feel bad about voting for the Republican. We're not racist. Look at me. And that didn't work. The immigration deal died in the House in 2013, and he spent the whole time since basically moving away from that. The one place where he sort of held the line was this idea that we would not immediately repeal President Obama's executive actions, which means we would not be spending our time and government resources to deport dreamers, people who basically, were brought in here as children and have been not born here, but raised in America and are effectively Americans. So for a long time, Rubio didn't want to give up on that. And then,
Which was sort of looked like a reasonable position on his part, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was just at the very least, it's like, well, he doesn't seem to brim with hatred for these people.
Yeah.
And so, like, with the Republican primary as it is right now, that put him in the, progressive wing, I suppose. So, yeah, that was his position. And now that he's scrambling to, well, as you just said, they're once again doing their thing where they spin, coming in third as first somehow. But assuming that doesn't work for them, he's given up on that position in terms of deporting dreamers, too. He seems to be doing this in a way he hopes not too many people notice, but he said in an interview recently that he will repeal those executive actions right away, first thing he'll do. So he's basically in the same place that Ted Cruz is right now, which I guess is fitting considering they essentially tied in South Carolina.
Right. And the idea that, if we get rid of Trump, right, the Republican Party can somehow dislodge Trump. I don't see who does it or when. That we'll end up with Ted Cruz or Marco Rubio.
Right.
Not a lot better off, right?
No, I mean, I don't know if people remember this, but it's sort of mind-blowing considering all the time that has been spent depicting Rubio as a sensible or moderate or whatever word that is supposed to oppose Trump you want to use. But when he first came up, he was in Florida politics. He was seen as like the Tea Party candidate. You probably remember.
Yes.
And so, like, to your point, if you go from Trump to Cruz to Rubio, it's just a testament to just how there's barely any room left on the right for the Republicans to move. So inevitably, one of these two guys gets depicted as sort of a back to the normal, away from the craziness of Trump, but they're not.
And this theory, right, that one of the governors, either a Jeb, right, or a Christie or a Kasich, would emerge as the, I don't know what the word is, sensible, maybe, or reasonable alternative, has just been crushed, right? They're no longer there. I mean, Kasich is but really not.
Yeah, I think it's pretty clear that to a degree the voters rejected them for that reason.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it's not like they're consciously looking for somebody that they think is crazy, but they are looking for someone that people like you and me don't like. and so I think it really did hurt any Republican running for office that you could, like, here's a great example. There's a story up on Slate this weekend that sort of lamented Bush's losing, and it presented him as like, say what you will about the guy, but he seemed like a decent dude, and he didn't want to deport people. I think the fact that story ran is exactly why Jeb lost.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think that's right.
I mean, Rubio has done his best to try to basically keep the D.C. press corps, if they don't like him, at least they feel like they can understand the way his brain works in the way they don't have with Trump or Cruz. And for Republican voters, the fact that the mainstream media doesn't understand the way their brain works is part of what's great about him.
From where you, from all the reporting and observing of this primary, let's stick on the Republican side, that you've done this year, do you believe today Donald Trump will be the Republican nominee?
Yeah, I do. I think that.
so do I, and that's pretty scary.
Yeah.
I know. I think over the weekend I had in my head almost, it suddenly like hit me that I kind of take it for granted that he's probably going to win. And then in my head it was just like Donald Trump. I'm talking about Donald Trump right now. Mm-hmm. I'm used to Donald Trump. Like, like if you really try to step back, it's unbelievable. But yeah, I think he's the favorite. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if he didn't get it because this whole cycle's been bizarre. But if you replaced his name with John Doe, everybody would say, obviously, that guy's going to win.
Yeah.
There it is. Oh, man. Ooh, let's deal with that. And next week we'll talk, Elias, about who we might get as his vice presidential running mate. Oh, that's scary, too.
That would be amazing.
Elias, great to join you. Thanks so much, man. All right, Elias Itzquith at Salon, salon.com.
Follow us on Twitter at BP Show. This is The Bill Press Show.
So you're drowning in student debt, and it looks like there's no way out. Have you considered bankruptcy? Of course not. It's a dirty word, and everything you've heard says students can't file anyway. It didn't start that way. Bankruptcy laws were enacted in the 19th century to give people a fresh start. But not all debt is created equal. Take this, for example. We have you, your buddy Carlos, and your Grandma Lucy. Carlos got laid off. His credit card debt was too much to handle, so he filed for bankruptcy. Will totally screw his credit, but at least he can start fresh, and after 10 years, his credit report should be fine. Grandma Lucy's home lost half its value. Now her mortgage isn't worth paying back. She says F it and decides to file for bankruptcy too. Then there's you. You didn't land that dream job, you're struggling to make ends meet, but the interest just keeps piling up. With a broken heart, you've written off the possibility of buying a home, having kids, and getting married because, hello, who wants to deal with your crazy baggage? But in reality, you want those things, and your education was supposed to get you there. Now you need a fresh start, just what bankruptcy was intended for. You try to file, like Carlos and Grandma Lucy, and that's when you realize it's not as easy for you as it was for them. In the 70s, Congress worried that students were using bankruptcy to abuse loan programs. That wasn't quite true. Still, over the years, Congress gradually stripped student debtors of their options. The Bankruptcy Reform Act of 1978 was even called discriminatory toward students by the chairman of the subcommittee. Student debt was singled out and lumped with criminal debts. Today, if student debtors try filing for bankruptcy anyway, they'll need to prove their debt imposes an undue hardship. But who's to say what qualifies as an undue hardship? Even some judges have said they don't get it. This lack of clarity in the law could work in your favor. A Harvard researcher discovered in 2012 that few students actually try to discharge their loans through bankruptcy. Of the students who filed for bankruptcy to settle other debts, only 0.1% try the same tactic on their school debt. The craziest part? Just under half of them got their debts fully or partially discharged. In other words, you can file for bankruptcy on your student loans. Depending on your situation, it might just be a matter of trying. At least there's that.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds. At highway speeds, that's enough time to travel the length of a football field. Stop the texts, stop the wrecks.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Here we go. Tom LoBianco from CNN coming up here in the top of the next hour.
Michelle Obama, First Lady, has held several of her in-performance at the White House concerts. They announced the 16th one will be held this week. It's going to be Wednesday evening, and it will be saluting Ray Charles.
Oh, my God.
Charles.
Right.
Yeah, so they've already announced who's going to be performing. Demi Lovato, Usher, the band Perry, Brittany Howard of the Alabama Shakes, and Sam Moore from Sam and Dave. They'll all be performing.
Wow. No, that's terrible.
It's a bad rundown. It's a bad rundown of guests. But they always tape these things and then show them back later on. So it should be... Leon Bridges is going to be there, by the way.
There you go.
Which I'll watch for that. So
remember George W. Bush waving at Ray Charles?
Yeah. Yeah. That's right.
Back with Tom LoBianco from CNN.
This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, guys, I want to take the last part of the day to change our focus and talk a little bit about water. There's rivers, there's lakes, there's huge oceans. You get thirsty, you just go and you get some water, right? We rely on rain for our water. We even rely on snow. But what if it doesn't rain? What if it doesn't snow? We have to get the word out about water conservation. I want you to tell your parents, your friends, your neighbors, how important it is to save water. It's up to you guys to save the planet. All right? What if it doesn't rain? What if it doesn't snow? We have to get the word out about water conservation. It's up to you guys to save the planet.
Hi, I'm Mark LaFleur, and I produced the short film you just watched called Aquaforce. California is experiencing one of the worst droughts it's ever had, and now, more than ever, it's important for everyone to do their part to help conserve water. The reason I made this film is because I wanted to make something fun and informative that would get people talking about the California drought. Obviously, this is an important issue because we have a limited amount of clean drinking water. I think it was very important to let people know, especially young people, that this is an important resource, maybe our most important resource, and it's something that we can't take for granted and we certainly can't waste. I really wanted this to be something that children would respond to. The kind of thing that any kid anywhere in the world, no matter what language they speak, could understand the story and be entertained by it and leave it knowing that this is something important, that if they didn't already know about this, that it's now going to be a part of the way that they think about water, the way that they live life, and that it's something that they'll share with their friends. The fact that they watch this video once or twice and they immediately understand that water is important, that's it. That was the whole point of this thing, to get it into the conversation, to make it something that kids are thinking about, talking about, that they're aware of, and that they know is important. This project was self-funded, so we relied on the support of our community to make it happen. It was pretty amazing to just have our neighbors, our friends, and our coworkers come together and volunteer their time and their homes and their kids to make this thing happen. Thanks for checking out the video. Keep the Aquaforce going, and thanks for watching Free Speech TV.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
On your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton, the big winners over the weekend. Hello, everybody. Happy Monday, February 22nd. It is The Bill Press Show. We are coming to you live right here from our studio on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C., following all the politics over the weekend, just like you, the Nevada caucuses for Democrats on Saturday and the Republican primary in South Carolina for the Republican team. And now on to Nevada for Republicans, South Carolina for Democrats, and then everybody ganging up on Super Tuesday, March 1. It is happening now. The pace has quickened. Hard to keep up with, and still a long way to go. Welcome to the program here on this Monday. I'd love to hear from you about what you think about Bernie not making it in Nevada, Donald Trump coming out on top in South Carolina, the whole score across the board, 866-55-PRESS, our toll-free number. And you can also send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show and on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. Hail, hail, the gang's all here. Peter Ragburn and Jamie Benson.
Here we are.
Hey, good morning.
Happy Monday.
Happy Monday indeed, with Ray Rogers. On the phones at 866-55-PRESS and Cyprian Bolding, our videographer on the job as always. And was looking for you. Hope you were looking for me over the weekend. Did a late night overnight on CNN from 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. I think our audience at that time was mainly on the West Coast.
You think?
Yeah. Anybody with any sense on the East Coast had bed by the time, except for the real political junkies.
Those people who fell asleep on the couch at midnight and woke up at like 1:30.
What's Bill Press doing?
What the hell is Bill Press doing on CNN? Yeah, those people. You're big with those people.
And last night, an hour on C-SPAN, being grilled by Brian Lamb on the new book, Buyer's Remorse, and it was a good hour. Brian's a good interviewer, tough interviewer.
Nice low-key weekend, relaxing weekend.
Yeah, I know. No, nothing going on. Here we are, back at it. And we know one casualty of the South Carolina primary was Jeb Bush. He really wanted to beat Marco Rubio. He wanted to come in first, second, or third. He did not. Came in a pretty weak fourth. And he just said, that's it. End of the road. $150 million down the drain. Here's Jeb. To his credit, I think, he recognized reality. He made the right decision.
The people of Iowa and New Hampshire and South Carolina have spoken, and I really respect their decision. So tonight, I am suspending my campaign.
He is out, but for some reason, Ben Carson, whom we expected, right, to make the same announcement.
There are news people here who think that I'm going to make a concession speech. Now, this is just the beginning speech.
Yeah, just the beginning. You know what?
Oh, my God.
But what people don't understand, if you have to, as about Ben Carson, is he is not in it to win it. He is in it to make money. It's a brand for him. It's not a campaign. It's a brand. And as long as he thinks staying in the public eye, staying in these debates, right, keeps him in front of the public, more money for books.
Yep.
For him and for his wife.
That's right. Candy's got a book.
Candy's got a book. And more money for speeches. That's what it's all about for Ben Carson. And it's not costing him anything. People are paying him money.
Yeah, people are giving him money to go do this. Yeah.
He's raising money, spending every dollar. He has spent, by the way, more per vote than Jeb Bush did. Ben Carson. Spent more than anybody else because it's all building up his brand.
We've said this before. Running for president is good for business.
For Ben Carson it is for sure. Indeed. And where do we go now on the Democratic side? We talked about the Republican side last hour. We'll get right into that with you. But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. So the USA Track and Field had trials for the U.S. Olympic Marathon team. They had 105 male qualifiers, and you got a chance to run to see if you were fast enough to join the United States Track and Field team to run the marathon. So they had this qualifying run, and coming in 105th place was a man by the name of Chris Barnacle. He finished in 3 hours, 45 minutes, and 34 seconds, which is not, that's a good time. Dude ran a marathon. But here's the thing.
Is this Mike Barnacle?
Not Mike Barnacle.
Oh.
Not Mike Barnacle running marathon. No. This guy, Chris Barnacle, the thing about Chris Barnacle is he is a heavy pot smoker, and he is known as the pot smoking runner. He gets high before he runs because it says it clears his mind. So he can still do marathons, but he did come in dead last. So he's good, but he's not that good.
He tried.
But
he tried.
I'm not sure smoking anything and running a marathon is a good idea.
No, I think you're right. But he also says he likes to take edibles. He said that before this race, he ate an edible because when you're going for almost 4 hours of running, you're not going to stay high that whole time if you smoke a joint. So he ate an edible for it to kick in during the race, right?
Oh, okay.
He's a thinker, this guy. He's a big thinker, you know? How about the Daytona 500 yesterday? It was the closest victory ever. They had to go back and look at the tape, but when they did, they found out that Denny Hamlin won the Daytona 500. Again, it was the closest win ever in the Daytona 500's long history. Denny Hamlin had raced this 10 times before. This is the first time he won it. As a matter of fact, after he won, his mother tweeted a photo of a childhood essay that he wrote when he was in 3rd grade saying, I want to win the Daytona 500.
Whoa.
Back when he was in 3rd grade.
Huh.
So she tweeted it out and said, it's real now. Well, congratulations to Denny Hamlin. I didn't watch the Daytona 500, but, good for him. And you also missed over the weekend, you might have missed this, Donald Trump called for a boycott of Apple. All Apple products. He said, we're boycotting Apple from here on out because of this whole thing with Apple saying that they weren't going to unlock the phone of the San Bernardino shooter. The problem is Donald Trump still uses a lot of Apple products. So he tweeted about the Apple boycott from his iPhone.
Yeah.
And as he was giving these speeches, he has volunteers who are taking money, with the little swipers on their iPads, right? To buy merchandise, you can just swipe your card with the iPad. So he's still going to work out this whole not using the company that we're boycotting thing, but he's very adamant about it.
That Donald Trump would say...
I know, you're stunning, I know.
Stunning that Donald Trump would actually say something that he didn't follow through on, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, let's take a look at the Democratic side. The caucuses in Nevada, very, very important, a real turning point. It was very important for Bernie Sanders to continue his momentum after that big win in New Hampshire. It was very important for Hillary Clinton to get back in the game. So they both had a lot of stake in Nevada, and Hillary's the one who came out on top roughly by 6 points, roughly 53 to 47. That's the way that NBC has rounded it off. And part of the problem out there for Bernie was turnout. This 2016 certainly did not generate the excitement that we saw in 2008 between Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama. There were 120,000 people turned out for the Democratic caucuses then. 80,000 turned out this year. And Bernie, in fact, attributed that partly to the reason that he did not fare better.
The voter turnout was not as high as I had wanted. And what I've said over and over again, we will do well when young people, when working class people come out. We do not do well when the voter turnout is not large. We did not do as good a job as I had wanted to bring out a large turnout.
There you go. But so for Hillary, it was a big win, no doubt about it. The only way to, no other way to slice it. She won decisively. She won among union voters, very strong. She also, particularly the members of the Culinary Union, even though the Hotel, Restaurant, and Employees Union, the culinary workers, did not, the union did not officially endorse, but she really worked those casinos. That was a big part of her win. She won, and that shows, and that where she really got all of her votes, most of her votes, was in Clark County, where Las Vegas is. She also won big among the African-American vote, something like 76% of it or something. Bernie Sanders got 22% of it. And that win really propels her into South Carolina, where as of this morning, according to CNN, she is ahead in South Carolina. Remember, 55% of the voting electorate in South Carolina is African-American, and she is ahead overall statewide, 57 to 32 for Bernie Sanders. Gives her a lot of momentum going into South Carolina and into Super Tuesday. At the same time, and again, love your take on what this means for Hillary, what this means for Bernie. Bernie Sanders also had a strong showing in Nevada. It's always better to win than to come in second. But when you consider that 10 months ago, Bernie was nowhere, and he announced, by the way, April 30, 2015. Okay, by that time, Hillary Clinton already had an operation going in Nevada. Bernie Sanders started out in Nevada 40% down. Just about 5 weeks ago, he was 25 points down, and he came to within 5 points of the colossal Hillary Clinton political machine. That's really stunning that he was able to do that. He either won or came close to winning. There's a little uncertainty in it, but certainly in the entrance polls, he was ahead by 8 to 10 points in the Latino vote in Nevada. He won the under 30 vote by something like 70, I think he had like 75% of young people who did turn out to vote. 82% of the young vote. He got 42% of the non-white vote. So this idea that Bernie Sanders' message is only tailored to white people, right? Nobody else. No, destroyed that myth in Nevada. And of course, he keeps raising money, over 4 million contributions now, with that average that he keeps saying of $27. So Bernie did well enough, more than well enough, to carry the fight on to the remaining states. And I think that's the message that I see coming out of Nevada, is this is going to be a long haul. This is going to be a big battle between two well-funded, very strong candidates, maybe all the way to the convention. And Bernie knows that Hillary Clinton, the next contest, of course, is in South Carolina on Saturday. Bernie knows that she's got the big advantage there. And so I don't know whether you saw, but Saturday evening when he congratulated Secretary Clinton, and congratulated and thanked all of his supporters and everything. He ended by saying, "On to Super Tuesday."
Yeah.
He didn't say on to South Carolina. He said on to Super Tuesday.
Super Tuesday.
And remember, Super Tuesday includes some of those important Midwest states, particularly. It includes Minnesota. It includes Colorado. It includes Vermont. It includes Massachusetts, states where Bernie's message of economic populism and income inequality, I think, will do very, very well. So Hillary wins. Bernie wins big enough, or ends big enough, places big enough, that this battle goes into South Carolina and beyond. It ain't over yet by a long shot on the Democratic side. 866-55-PRESS is the toll-free number. What do you think of Hillary's chances now? What do you think of Bernie's chances? I didn't hear anybody say, well, this is the end of the road for Bernie. Huh?
No.
No way. No way. Carries on. Strong showing by Hillary and stronger showing by Hillary, but still a strong showing for Bernie. Let's talk about it. 866-55-PRESS.
Can't catch the entire show? Listen to BP in 3, where we turn 3 hours into 3 minutes. Find it every day at BP Show on Twitter or at BillPressShow.com.
This is the story of my grandfather. When I was 19 years old, his right hand was crushed in a printing press. He was supposed to lose the hand, but a young doctor saved it just in time for the war. This is the story of the war. My grandfather repaired tanks. Behind the front lines, away from the cameras, he would pull pieces of dead men from the machines and send the machines back out to the field. This is the story of the war a decade later. Back then, you didn't talk about depression. There was no such thing as PTSD. When my uncle, age 7, asked him who won the war, my grandfather said, nobody. This is the story of my grandfather, the machinist. I have a newspaper from 1981, a story about the Nobel Prize for Physics, a photograph of the winner, a Harvard man standing by his machines. This man is not my grandfather. Beneath the photo, my grandfather has written, I designed and built almost everything in this picture. They worked together for 10 years, but my grandmother says the physicist never even remembered his name. If you asked that Harvard man, there would be no story of my grandfather, just a pair of disembodied hands. This is the problem with stories. They have to leave something out. The editor cuts a line and someone's face fades. The editor says 200 words or less and suddenly a whole family goes missing. The spotlight isn't about the light. It's how it makes everything around it dark. My grandfather's face is erased from every story. The machines survive, but the man who made them doesn't. The machines make the photo, but their maker is out of frame. But we choose where to point the camera. We can choose how to tell the story. We can choose which clothing the hero wears. I could tell you this is a story about a soldier, or I could tell you this is a story about the blue-collar man, but really, this is just the story of my grandfather. I did not know him. I was born too late, but my family tells me his name. Alfred Franzosa. I know that name might only live in this moment, that there are other stories with greater stakes, but still, I will tell you his name. I will repair this old machine. I will let my grandfather live again because I could not know him while he was living. Once, when he was younger than I am now, his right hand was crushed by a printing press, crushed by other people's stories. When it healed, he began to build. He used his hands to build tanks and his hands to build cradles. His hands were the last thing to touch dead soldiers and the first to touch his newborn sons. He built a good family, and that family built me, and now I use my hands to build his story. The story is not a eulogy. A eulogy seals the casket. A eulogy lets no air out. This story is a resurrection. Jesus was not resurrected by God. He was brought back by the people who told his stories. It does not take a miracle to raise the dead, to leave behind the tombstone and take the name with you.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, 25 minutes after the hour here on Monday, February 22nd. Adam Wollner from National Journal Hotline joins us at the half hour talking about Nevada with Hillary Clinton coming out with a 6-point win. By the way, the Clinton campaign, they were worried last week that they might, because Bernie had so much momentum going, that they might actually lose in Nevada. They were sort of lowering expectations. But she really doubled down at the end, made a lot of personal appearances.
Doubled down?
Doubled down. Yeah, she did. Yeah. Won the jackpot. Particularly at the casinos. It looked like Caesars put her over the top.
Yeah.
And the turnout was disappointing down to... by the way, no matter who wins, the turnout was disappointing. The fact that 80,000 compared to 120,000 the last time they really counted in 2008. And Bernie walks away 6 votes short, but still strong enough, very strong, to move on to Super Tuesday. Here's our buddy Jim out in Las Vegas, fresh from a caucus on Saturday. Hey, Jim, what happened?
Hey, Bill, it was so unorganized. People were leaving in droves. They were driving by. Now, the ones on the casino, you're waiting inside in the air conditioning. It was hot. The lines around this high school, where 5 precincts, one of them was mine, went all around the building. There was over 1,000 people outside, people in wheelchairs, handicapped people, no place for them to sit in shade, no water. They couldn't get in. They were leaving in droves. I met after. I didn't get a chance to caucus. I got so angry, I left, and I met about 20 other people that caucused, and every single one said they would never caucus again. There were precincts with no internet. They couldn't look to see if people were registered. It was a nightmare.
Can we just agree that caucuses in general are sort of an outdated way of getting this done?
It was absolutely horrible. The people that I talked to said they would absolutely never caucus again.
Who's in charge, Jim?
It's the state Democratic Party chairman, and I've got 4 people already getting ready to write letters. And when I got there, I was shocked. It was 3-1 Bernie signs, Bernie shirts. But see, that's the difference between the casinos that are air conditioned and union workers, and the school that I worked at was just regular people, retired people, handicapped people that were all for Bernie. We saw very, very few Hillary signs, people for Hillary. It was just, I was shocked at how many people were there for Bernie.
Whoa. Well, I think that if that were repeated, and I bet it was, in many polling places, many precincts around across the state, that helps explain what happened on Saturday. But Peter, I think you're right. Caucuses are a hell of a way to go. Come on, just have primaries. You don't have to take hours and hours of people's time. Just have a primary. People can go in and vote. And pretty soon, I hope we're going to be able to vote online as well.
This is the Bill Press Show.
I have run these canyons for 6 million years. I have traveled from the Rocky Mountains to the deserts, through scorching heat and freezing cold, from the land of the dinosaurs to fields of food.
I lend my hand to 7 states, 2 countries, 9 national parks,
And 36 million people across an arid West.
I am not the strongest or the largest, but I am the hardest working.
People love me.
My playfulness,
My beauty.
my power,
My life. But I don't think I can offer any more.
I am tired.
I am tired,
tapped,
and tied. Of the hundreds of major rivers in the world, I am one of the few who no longer kisses the sea.
Battles to harness my soul have been won and lost. Use me wisely, and I will sustain you.
Use me like you have, and I will break. My name
is
Red. The Grand River Red. The American Nile.
The Canyon Maker. I am the Colorado River.
And I am the most endangered river in America.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
He's not running for president, but he will shake hands and kiss babies. It's the Bill Press Show, your progressive headquarters for the 2016 election.
All right, at 33 minutes after the hour, here we go on Monday, February 22nd. Don't forget, you've heard about the blurb, Bernie Sanders' blurb on my new book, Buyer's Remorse. Well, how about the book? The book is available here. How Obama let progressives down. It talks about the good things that Obama has done, but also points out many of ways in which he walked away from the progressive agenda, didn't pursue it, or went the opposite direction. You can, of course, pick it up at your local bookstore or through Barnes & Noble or Amazon.com. But if you want a signed copy, go to our website, BillPressShow.com. Just tell us how you want it signed. We'll get it out to you right away. We've been signing them almost every day after every show, so join the crowd. Get your signed or inscribed copy at BillPressShow.com. Been talking a lot about the big political results over the weekend. Republican primary in South Carolina and Democratic caucuses in Nevada. Joining us now has been writing about both. Adam Wallner is a 2016 reporter for the National Journal Hotline. Hello, Adam.
Bill, thanks for
You're
having me
not on the road. You're in town.
In D.C. It's great to be here. It's a beautiful morning.
I guess it is. It was just dark and cold when I came in. Let's look.
There you go. You can see it's a live shot there.
Live shot of the nation's
pretty
capital,
decent.
thanks
Can't
to
complain.
Cyprian Bowling. So, where do we go from here on the Democratic primary? Into South Carolina. But let's just assess the results in South Carolina. For Hillary, a big win.
Yeah, it looks like she's headed for a pretty big win going into the South Carolina primary on Saturday. All the polls, of course, they were conducted before the Nevada caucuses, but show her with a pretty sizable lead, upwards of 30, 40 points, and she has a very massive lead among African-American voters, and they made up over half of the Democratic primary electorate in 2008. And we saw in Nevada, I think she won them by black voters by about 50 points there. So, and it's kind of unclear how much Senator Sanders even wants to compete in South Carolina. We heard in his concession speech over the weekend. It's on to Super Tuesday, right?
Oh,
He
yeah,
didn't even mention.
It was very clear to me.
He was in Greenville yesterday, and I think he did another event in South Carolina. But it looks like even this week he's going to start looking forward to some of those Super Tuesday states on March 1st.
Which I think is smart for him, right?
Yeah, I think so. I'm sure he'd like to bring that margin down a little bit in South Carolina and at least keep it close. But I think his campaign realizes that he needs to, in order to especially start playing catch up in the delegate game. Super Tuesday is a good place to start doing that.
I think, to me, South Carolina is like the mirror image of New Hampshire. In New Hampshire, Bernie was running to make his winning margin as big as possible, and Hillary is running to make her losing margin as small as possible. It's kind of the opposite now in South Carolina. Hillary running to win by as big as she can, and Bernie trying to narrow the gap.
Yeah, all about the expectations game, right?
And I saw this morning somewhere I was reading that his campaign manager in South Carolina, or campaign chair in South Carolina, said, like with the African-American vote, I mean, they know that because of historical ties, that's a pro-Clinton vote. She's got a huge advantage there. And that Bernie is saying he certainly doesn't expect to win the African-American vote, doesn't even expect to get half of it, that they would be very happy if they could get between 35 and 50, somewhere.
Right.
If they get up in that range, that's a win for them.
Right, and I think even that will be pretty tough to do on Saturday, and of course the African American vote will also play a big role in some of the southern states that are going to come up on March 1st. But I think his campaign seems to be eyeing more of the Minnesotas and the Colorados that are going to be on the schedule, holding caucus states where there will be more white voters and more of kind of that base that'll be turning out in those types of contests.
But also more young voters.
Right.
He is still, if she won the African-American vote in Nevada by 50, he won the millennials, and even older than millennials, by 50, 60 points. What's going on with young people and Bernie Sanders?
Yeah, it's been amazing in all these exit polls in the first three states now.
It's
almost
right.
Like
it's the Gene McCarthy campaign in 68, right?
It's just not even close. And that certainly has to be a worry for the Clinton campaign. I think, they're drawn to him because...
Are you a millennial?
I am a millennial, and I have friends, across the political spectrum who, I have, Bernie supporters who are friends of mine. I have, Hillary supporters who are friends of mine, and I think what draws people to Bernie Sanders is, kind of what is his appeal across the board. Just his kind of, he comes at things, people view him as an outsider. He's not part of the entrenched establishment. He wasn't even a member of the Democratic Party until very recently. And I think people are drawn to that. And of course, he's really honed in on that message of income inequality and education. And of course, that's an important issue to a lot of young voters.
Right. It does seem to me that there's almost like I'm a Democrat because my parents were Republicans, okay? Mm-hmm. Not very complicated, right?
Right.
And I find that feeling among young people today is, the establishment, they all want us to do what they did, right? And support the people that they've always supported. Or like we have to be for Hillary, we're a young woman, we have to be for her only because she's a woman. But it's just sort of an iconoclastic almost approach to the political system, and Bernie represents this clearly, even though he's been in Congress for so long, total outsider who is clearly not part of the establishment, and they like that.
Yeah, and it's still pretty remarkable.
And he's new. I mean, he is new. She is old.
Right, and you know, I mean, it really is remarkable on its face. And 74-year-old Democratic socialist from Vermont, and you know, it's these 20, 24-year-old voters that are flocking to him. And I think Hillary Clinton will certainly, you know, she needs to close that gap. I think at some point, and certainly she's going to need young voters on her side if she becomes the Democratic nominee, and she'll need them on her side in a general election. And it's also interesting to see, even among younger minority voters, it seems like some are going to Bernie Sanders as well. There's a Wall Street Journal story over the weekend, kind of detailing how. You know, one way Bernie Sanders could perhaps close that gap among black voters in South Carolina would maybe be among some of the younger voters if they turn out for him. But it really is a remarkable phenomenon on the Democratic side.
And you know, I have to ask you, do you think these? There's no doubt also that Hillary has all the endorsements that you could possibly want. Including former president, happens to be her husband, but all of these, she's got every United States senator in the Democratic side who has endorsed Hillary. Some haven't endorsed yet, like Elizabeth Warren. I don't think Harry Reid officially has endorsed. Has he? I don't believe. I know he went into the caucus.
Yeah, it's pretty clear that
he's.
Yeah, I think it's clear that he's allied with Hillary Clinton, whether or not the endorsement's been made official or not.
Yeah. And even she has the unofficial endorsement of the President of the United States. I mean, Barack Obama said he agrees more politically with her. He hasn't endorsed officially, but he said he leans more toward her than toward Bernie. 4 members of his cabinet have endorsed Hillary. Anybody who's no longer on his payroll has endorsed Hillary. You know, so I mean, it's pretty clear. But with all these endorsements, do they really matter? And Bernie has 2, Keith Ellison and Raul Grijalva.
Right. Yeah, well, and it's pretty. And on the other side of the aisle, you know, Donald Trump doesn't even have any congressional endorsements at this point. So I think, you know, this has just been one of those election cycles where a lot of the normal rules of politics have sort of been turned on their head. And you know, certainly, you know, it doesn't hurt to have some of those endorsements on your side, and especially as you move into more and more states in March, and if you're able to kind of use some of those elected officials' networks to your advantage, I think that can help. But you know, I think from Bernie Sanders' perspective, he also probably kind of likes the fact, you know, that he can say, "Hey, look, nobody in Washington, you know, wants me there. That's why I'm in the best position to shake things up."
One quick update, by the way, because Bernie Sanders did get another congressman's endorsement over the weekend. Congressman Peter Welch, our friend Peter Welch, endorsed Bernie Sanders over the weekend.
So
from Vermont.
up to 3 now, right?
Yeah, 3. Yeah.
I was just thinking Peter Welch had not.
That's pretty. It's interesting that it took him this long.
Well, he had said he wasn't going to, and then he finally came out and said he's supporting Bernie Sanders.
Interesting.
He's also from Vermont.
Yeah.
Knows him well. Yeah, right. Right.
So Bernie's got the Vermont delegation.
He's got him locked up.
Pat Leahy, I think, has endorsed Hillary. I have to double check.
I don't know.
Yeah. Right. So how long does this Democratic primary go on, Adam?
I think it's still going to go on for a long while. I think, you know, Hillary Clinton has the advantage here, you know, both among delegates, and if you just look at the upcoming primary calendar, a lot of states are really going to favor her. You know, looking at the Super Tuesday, where Bernie Sanders kind of hopes to make his mark. There are a lot of states that are favorable to Hillary Clinton. You know, you've got Texas, Georgia, Virginia. Those are kind of the big delegate states, and those are looking pretty good for her. And then we move forward into some of the bigger March 15th states. But Bernie Sanders has the resources to keep on going. You know, he raised another 20-some million in January, and I'm sure that's that it's only going to keep up in February. I think maybe the concern for him is that if he does start to lose some momentum, if he starts losing a couple states back to back, then maybe some of that enthusiasm wanes, and some of those small dollar contributions that have been fueling him maybe start to subside a little bit. But I think he, especially in a two-person race, I think this thing is still going to go on for a while. But Bernie Sanders, he still has his work cut out for him to eventually top Hillary Clinton here.
All right. How do people sign up for the 2016 newsletter?
So if you go to nationaljournal.com, we should have a sign-up box around there somewhere. And, sign up. It comes out every morning around 7:30.
Senior political reporter for the National Journal, Adam Wollner, in studio with us, and author of the 2016 newsletter. Go to nationaljournal.com. We'll be right back. I want to ask you about super delegates when we come back, Adam, because they play a big role in on the Democratic side. Back with Adam Wollner from the National Journal.
Get social with Bill Press. Like us at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. This is The Bill Press Show.
It occurred to me tonight, for the first time, that the long-winged insect that over and over again rams its body into the wood of my front door might not know what he's doing. He might not have a plan. Maybe that's just how he flies, and that is where the door is. And I remember you. The last time I saw you, a few weeks before we would graduate from high school, and a few days before you let a bullet dissolve on your tongue, dancing in a warehouse rave, sweat-drenched and strobe light battered, thrashing your arms back and thrusting them forward. The floor could get so bright and loud, we all slowed down to be more careful, but you kept dancing full sprint tornado, and sometimes you'd spin full weight into a wall and just spread your arms against it and sway back and forth like a lover reunited. This long-winged insect is not trying to get into the house. It doesn't know there is a house. Can't imagine a life beyond that door. All it can see is the light. You and I were both 17 when you died. And ever since then, I have envied you. How you are remembered for towering, unclaimed potential instead of living to look regret in the face. You didn't have to come home 3 weeks later and explain to your little brother why you took too much medicine. Your addiction is remembered as a tragedy, not a betrayal. Your suicide attempt became a suicide, not an unpaid hospital bill. And only tonight did it occur to me that maybe that night when you let your teeth touch metal, you might not have known what you were doing. You might not have had a plan. Maybe you had hit that door so many times you couldn't imagine it might let you through. I'm still ashamed to admit it, but I have always secretly believed you did it for me, that you wanted to show me that there is a way out of all of this. Not so that I would follow you, but so I would understand that every day that I am alive is a day that I choose to be alive. And when the music stops, you still get to keep on dancing. And when the light is so bright it blinds, you can dance with your eyes closed. And if in that dark you come up against a wall, you keep your arms out wide and you dance with the wall.
YouTube.com/TawkrTV. That's TAWKR-TV. This is The Bill Press Show.
All right, you got it. 13 minutes now. Make it 12 minutes before the top of the hour here on Monday, February 22nd, assessing the returns from over the weekend. Saturday, big day on the Republican and the Democratic side. Donald Trump running away with the primary in South Carolina for Republicans, and Hillary with a healthy six-point win over Bernie Sanders in Vermont. Where do we go from here? Adam Wallner, 2016 reporter for the National Journal and author of the 2016 newsletter, in studio with us. Donald Trump have the nomination locked up?
He seems to be getting pretty close. I mean, at this point, it's going to be really tough to stop him. I think one thing that is working in his favor is that there still are a decent amount of candidates in this race. Even though Jeb Bush dropped out,
down to three.
But with John Kasich and Ben Carson still on the ballot, I think that is bad news for Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz. Even if they're only
the more the better for Trump.
Exactly. If they're only taking single digits, that's fine. But a lot of those Kasich voters, you have to think would eventually go to Rubio if they're looking for some sort of establishment alternative to Trump.
Well, Kasich and Carson both got 7% in South Carolina.
Yeah, which it's just nothing.
But it's enough to change the course of the race.
Exactly. Especially when Trump at this point is still he's taking about a third of the vote in every one of these states, and that's obviously enough to win New Hampshire and South Carolina.
Sure.
But at some point here, if it gets down to 2 or 3, he's going to have to build on that. And then that's the big question everyone has is, does Trump have a ceiling? The answer is we don't really know at this point. It seems like he doesn't have quite as much room to grow as someone like Senator Rubio. And I think Rubio is in the best position now to stop Trump in the long run, but he hasn't even won a state yet, so he has to prove that he can do that first. But Trump, it's going to be really tough to stop him when he's winning evangelicals in a state like South Carolina.
Yeah,
his support among blue collar whites. Between you put those two together, that's a pretty formidable coalition right there.
So South Carolina and Nevada Tuesday for the Republicans and South Carolina Saturday for the Democrats. And then we get into Super Tuesday, just for the record, because we were chatting ahead of time. It is confusing, but there are 12 states up for Republicans and Democrats. They are quite a mix.
Yeah.
Alabama, Arkansas, Colorado, Georgia. I can't. Massachusetts. Can't even read my. Massachusetts, Minnesota, Oklahoma, Texas, Vermont, and Virginia. And then for Democrats, American Samoa, Democrats only. And for Republicans only, caucuses in Alaska and a primary in Tennessee. So getting down to where they could really hone in on one state, we're done this week.
Right.
And then it gets into the wholesale kind of stuff. And anytime you look at like in Nevada, Hillary won 19 delegates, Bernie won 15. Okay. So with the Democrat, for the most part, it's proportionate. Except for what Hillary's great big firewall, really, is not so much the African-American vote as super delegates. Who are they and why?
Right. So the superdelegates are these kind of party officials, members of the DNC, members of the state party across the country, who are, they are free to support whoever they want, regardless of the results in their state. So
just by virtue of the office they hold, they are a delegate.
That's right.
They're not elected they're elected to their office, like mayor or governor. But then, yeah.
Exactly. And so, they're free to support whoever they like. And so right now, if you look at the delegate count, you might be a little surprised considering that we're only 3 states in. And, I think Hillary Clinton has, 400, 500 delegate advantage already. And most of that is due to the superdelegates because they pretty much split the pledged delegates in the first 3 states, more or less. But and this is something that the Sanders campaign obviously is not thrilled with, that even though they've been keeping it very competitive with Hillary Clinton, they still are down so far in this count.
There's 712 of them in total. Mm-hmm. It's I believe, undemocratic for them to have so much power and not have to follow the will of the people. Now, there is a movement, MoveOn.org, among others, are pushing, as you know, to have superdelegates agree that they will vote for whoever gets the most votes in the primaries. Like whoever wins a popular vote, if you will, would be the nominee. If they were to go the opposite direction, I think it would be a bloodbath in the Democratic Party. People would just not even go out and vote for the Democratic candidate.
Yeah, and of course, superdelegates can still move back and forth as much as they want, before the convention. So there is a chance, if Senator Sanders, proves that he can, stay competitive with Hillary Clinton for a while, that some may choose to move over to his side. That doesn't seem very likely, but it certainly is possible. This is a huge advantage for Hillary Clinton, moving when you have already an advantage of a few hundred
I know
delegates.
others probably have too, but Christine Pelosi, friend of mine, worked closely with her on in the California Democratic Party. She's a superdelegate, and she has said that she's agreed with MoveOn.org. She's pledged that she will vote for whoever gets the most votes. I would hope more I'm sure some others have. I just happen to know that she has. Sure. I would hope more superdelegates would follow that. Otherwise, it's just like, the people vote, right? And then they go in the back smoke-filled room, right? And the party poobahs decide, no, this is the person we want.
Right, and there's nothing like that on the Republican side, which is interesting.
More democracy on the Republican side than on the Democratic side. I don't know. Hey, Adam, great to see you. Thanks so much for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
I know your good work there. Don't forget, nationaljournal.com. You can sign up for the 2016 newsletter. And we'll be right back. Tell you what's on the president's schedule today.
Your progressive headquarters for the 2016 election. This is The Bill Press Show.
All right, here we go. Just about wrapping up the second hour, but 2 hours is never enough. Never enough. We got so much to talk about. We need to roll into a third hour, which we will do, and you can stay with us right now. Watch it live on TawkrTV, youtube.com/TawkrTV, or kick back, take a break, and rejoin us on Free Speech TV at 5 o'clock Eastern, 4 Central, and 2 Pacific. Good to have you with us. Emma Roller from the New York Times joins us for hour number 3 right here in studio with all of you. Thanks for being there.
You taught him how to hit a baseball.
Just like that. Say hi!
How to hit a receiver. The strike zone. The net. You taught him how to hit the upper corner. You even taught him how to hit the open man. But how much time have you spent teaching him what not to hit?
For Mike Brown. I'm sick of writing this poem, but bring the boy. His new name, his same old body, ordinary black dead thing, bring him. And we will mourn until we forget what we are mourning. And isn't that what being black is about? Not the joy of it, but the feeling when you're looking at your child, turn your head, then poof, no more child. That feeling, that's black. Think, once a white girl was kidnapped, and that's the Trojan War. Later, up the block, Troy got shot, and that was Tuesday. Are we not worthy of a city of ash, of 1,000 ships launched because we are missed? I demand a war to bring the black boy back, no matter what his name is this time. I at least demand a song. A song will do. Or a head.
This is the Bill Press Show.
In the next hour, Emma Roller will be here from the New York Times, and Tom LoBianco from CNN. President Obama, big day at the White House today. He and the Vice President get the daily briefing this morning about 10 o'clock. And then he will be meeting with the Democratic Governors Association, the National Governors Association, not just the Democratic Governors Association, in the state dining room. Then he and the Vice President go off and have their weekly lunch today. They get together for lunch at least once a week. I don't remember any other president, vice president who did that so regularly.
Yeah,
as
right.
They do. No, they're a very close working team. And we will be meeting with Josh Earnest, our press briefing at 12:30 in the briefing room with the head of the Governors Association and the vice chair of the Governors Association, who is Virginia Governor Terry McAuliffe, my good friend.
Yeah.
The Macker. All right. And a former guest here on the Bill Press Show more than once. All right. Back with Tom LoBianco from CNN. Continue to talk about the political doings
This is the
over
Bill
weekend.
Press Show.
The hardest moments for me is when I'm laying awake in the middle of the night and I'm thinking about all the times I made a pitcher of Kool-Aid with the water, or I boiled a pot of corn or potatoes with the water. Those thoughts just stick with me in the middle of the night. And I feel horrible as a mom that I didn't know that something was wrong, but how could I have known? There's no way I would have known.
The spill at Dan River happened when a drainage pipe that ran underneath an ash basin and dam collapsed, sucking out 6 decades of waste and spewing gunk directly into the river.
My husband and I just kind of looked at each other like, should we be concerned? We live right next to an ash pond, and this was coal ash spilling into the Dan River, and we learned at that point all of the toxins that were included in coal ash.
A situation like Dan River, where there was a catastrophic disaster, gets people's attention, but the fact is that these coal ash pits have been leaking and poisoning people's groundwater and the state's surface waters for decades. Coal ash is the residue left behind after coal is burned in a coal-fired power plant. A large coal-fired power plant can burn 10 million tons of coal a year. When the organic matter in the coal is burned away, what's left behind are these trace minerals, things like arsenic, lead, mercury, selenium, and chromium. And these are highly concentrated. The coal ash can have concentrations of these contaminants that are 10 to 100 times greater than the level in the coals themselves.
Coal ash pond number 1 is right behind my house, literally pretty much in my backyard. We were approached by a neighbor who was wanting to have their well tested, and we decided that maybe we should have ours tested as well. They found hexavalent chromium at 4.5 parts per billion.
So in talking to the residents, we have discovered anecdotal evidence of an extraordinary number of cancers for this fairly small community.
Some of us in the community got together. We started kind of talking about all the we've seen in some of our family friends in this community. I think we had somewhere in the neighborhood of around 70 names. So we had some help from our river keepers putting a map together, and it was a little shocking to see it. You know, I still have a hard time looking at it.
Technically, EPA has not regulated coal ash as a hazardous waste, but it is undeniable that coal ash contains many, many hazardous substances that are hazardous, in fact, to people and the environment. And the only reason they have not been regulated as such is because of intense lobbying efforts by the coal industry and its allies.
A lot of these chemicals are simple elements, but when you find them at the levels that they exist in around coal ash ponds, then you're starting to talk about cancer, brain tumors, you're talking about birth defects, developmental problems, neurotoxicity.
We began to look at legal options, cases that we could bring in court to protect communities and their citizens from these toxic leaking time bombs. In 2002, North Carolina enacted a public financing mechanism for judicial elections. This kept private money out of judicial elections.
The repeal of the public financing program in judicial elections in North Carolina creates a dangerous precedent for all, and it gives corporate polluters and other special interests the opportunity to elect the judges that they want. And this is important for us all. Everyone should care about this, because when you think about the fact that the state and the federal government have basically abdicated their responsibility to regulate these issues. The state courts are the last stopgap.
I think this is no longer a problem that's going to go under the radar. It has been exposed, and I am confident that we will ultimately, with the facts, win out and ensure that we have protected waterways.
And so this is something that we all should care about. If we're worried about the water we drink and the air we breathe, we have to be concerned about money and judicial elections.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
It's Donald Trump in South Carolina, Hillary Clinton in Nevada, and now on to back to Nevada for Republicans, down to South Carolina for Democrats, and then on to Super Tuesday. Hard to keep track of. That's why you got to tune into the Bill Press Show every day, and it's good to see you this Monday, February 22nd, a day we used to celebrate as George Washington's birthday. I still do.
Damn it.
Damn it. He deserves his own birthday, not to be lumped in with everybody else. Hello, everybody. Great to see you. Hope you had a great weekend and didn't spend all weekend watching politics or talking about it. We'll bring you up to date here in our last hour together. Good to see you, and look forward to hearing from you what you think about it all. Either Donald Trump's continued dominance in the Republican side or Hillary Clinton getting her momentum back on the Democratic side. 866-55-PRESS is the toll-free number, and your comments welcome on Twitter. Peter Ogburn standing here, just poised, ready to capture your comments on Twitter at BP Show and on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. I've got this second job now on CNN as a political contributor, so particularly pleased to welcome to the program here in the studio with us a colleague from CNN on the political front, Tom LoBianco, political reporter for CNN. Fresh back from New Hampshire. Hey, Tom.
Thanks.
Good to see you.
Likewise.
Mainly on the road with Bernie Sanders, huh?
A little bit, yeah. I hung out with Bernie a little bit.
A little wild ride.
You could say that. That was quite the turn in New Hampshire. 22 points. Beating expectations, you could say.
Right. Absolutely. And now the challenge, of course, after Nevada, South Carolina, and on to Super Tuesday. And we'll get the rundown of those from you. The rest of the team here, Peter Ogburn and Jamie Benson, of course.
Hey.
Hey, good morning.
Ray Rogers on the phones, ready for your calls at 866-55-PRESS. Cyprian Bolding, our videographer, on the job as always. Thank you, Cyprian. And, it's not that long now. Less than a year, we'll be saying goodbye to President Obama. And some people are going to be very, very sad. A little video went around, went viral over the weekend about a grandmother posted this about her granddaughter, very upset that Barack Obama won't be here anymore.
Why are you crying? Tell me why you crying so you can tell everybody. Barack Obama finna go. I know.
Barack Obama's going to go.
But he can only serve 2 terms, and his time is up.
No! Oh my
it's
God.
okay. We got to vote for another president.
Oh my God.
She doesn't sound very happy about the options.
She said, "What? I got to vote for Donald Trump."
Man,
Yeah, I'm telling you.
you know,
Don't
someone
take it so hard. 8 years. You had 8 years, right?
First of all, I should say, shame on that mother for not giving that girl, grandmother, for not giving that girl a copy of Bill's new book, Buyer's Remorse, where he makes the case about how Obama has let progressives down, because then she might not be so sad, right?
Tom, this was not planned. This was not planned. But thank you, Peter. And if you want your own signed copy,
you can get a signed
go to
copy?
Bill
Oh, look at
Press
this.
Show.
Wow.
You go to BillPressShow.com.
I heard she's up next, right?
Yeah.
All right.
That's called
waiting to get
viral
an autograph.
marketing.
Look, parents out there, I read this book to my kids every night as I tuck them into bed, and I got to tell you, boy, just no better gift for a young child.
I gotta tell you, man.
Put the whole family to bed.
The whole shameless plug. There it is. All right,
Company man. I'm a company man.
With Tom LoBianco here for the first half hour, and then we move on to Emma Roller from the New York Times. But first,
This is the Full Court Press.
of the day.
Yes, indeed. Just a couple of other stories making news. Donald Trump thinks he's better than Obama in a lot of ways, but one specific way he said when he was in South Carolina, "I think I could beat the president at golf." Golf.
Oh God, get out now.
I don't know. Donald Trump owns a lot of golf courses. He's put them all together. He plays a lot of golf. But here's what here's one thing that Trump says that I actually agree with. He says that if he is president, he's going to play with people to make deals happen. Quote, "When the president plays golf, it's fine, but he should play with people he wants to make deals with, Congress people and people from other countries, not just his friends." End quote. Donald Trump says he's used the golf course to sort of make deals happen, and the president should do that too. That's all.
All right. Thank you, Donald.
You got it. You got it.
I'll tell you one thing. On the golf course, man, he would have to deliver. It's not just bluster on the golf course, right?
That's right.
Yeah, I mean.
That's right. It depends on how much you cheat out there. That's the other thing. Edward Snowden made a little bit of news because he said he would come back to the United States if he was guaranteed a fair trial. He was sort of video conferenced in to the Libertarian Conference at New Hampshire Liberty Forum, and he talked a little bit about just general classified information and all of that. And he said, quote, "I've told the government I will return if they guarantee a fair trial where I can make a public interest defense of why this was done and allow a jury to decide." End quote. Not sure that that's going to happen, but he says he's open to it.
Here's somebody asking for fairness. Kind of sounds like Donald Trump.
Yeah, right? Yeah, exactly.
I think there are a few other people he ought to talk to before he takes that deal.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And there are a lot of reasons to be scared of climate change. Here is just the latest one. Climate change is decimating Maine's lobster population.
No.
Yeah, I know. I knew Jamie would chime in on this with a quickness. What happens is there's warmer ocean temperatures, right? And that has allowed lots of diseases to thrive. The normally very chilly Maine waters had done a good job of keeping certain diseases at bay. But now that they've warmed up because of global warming and climate change, the lobsters are having a hard time fighting off these diseases. Specifically, there's a shell disease that gives them lesions and makes them unfit to eat. And so this has sort of run rampant now all across the waters of Maine. And so there's a real problem.
My annual trip home is going to be ruined. I'm not going to have lobsters.
You're going to get one of
Is that
those
what you're
mutant
telling me?
lobsters.
They have a lot of them now. They have albino lobsters. They have twin lobsters that are joined together.
You can buy that?
No, they're finding them.
Oh, this is just a thing. Oh, I see.
It's, again, a product of what you're talking about here.
Man, yeah. Climate change, man.
If there's anything that ought to stimulate people to do something
Now
about
we must
climate
act.
change, it's knowing the Maine lobsters right now. Yes,
right.
indeed. All right.
Gone too far.
Thank you, Peter. Yes, indeed. All right. So, Tom, let me ask you first of all. Let's start with Nevada and with Bernie, not losing by roughly 6 points, a little less than 6
give or
points.
take.
And as Bernie said, looking at what might have been part of the reason for it, I mean, it was a strong showing, but he didn't win. he was counting on getting a lot more people out to the polls. We have that clip, Jamie, of Bernie on because part of his whole thing is
right.
I can excite people, I can get them out to vote, and we have a big turnout. Democrats win, and I win. Here he is.
The voter turnout was not as high as I had wanted, and what I've said over and over again, we will do well when young people, when working class people come out. We do not do well when the voter turnout is not large. We did not do as good a job as I had wanted to bring out a large turnout.
80,000 people turned out this year. 120,000 turned out in 2008.
Well, I mean, that's it.
It's a big
right?
factor, right?
That's the capital M movement that he's looking for, right? And the small M movement that you need to make it happen. If you can't get people to the polls, and that's the organizing part of this too. If you listen to what Clinton said yesterday too, in the talkers, she said that she credited 4 months of organizing there. So this is kind of one of your big questions with Sanders right now is, can you ramp up, and does ramping up fast? I mean, look how much he spent in January. I'd have to double check this, but I'm pretty sure he, if not the biggest spender, one of the biggest spenders. $21 million raised, okay, and $35 million spent. All right, almost double what Clinton did, and that's because you're ramping up fast in these states. But it doesn't always work, and that's the big question, right? They didn't turn out people. Look at the younger vote. When you look at the entrance polls coming out in Nevada, the younger vote was maybe like a third of what was coming in there, and people over the age of 45 accounted for about 2/3, and that's Clinton territory, and she drove the older vote.
Right, and we're coming up into states that, not states. We're coming up into election dates where there are multiple states where, unless you've had a long time to build an organization in all of those states, it's almost impossible to do so on short notice.
Right.
Correct?
Absolutely. So, and that's the other thing too. It's can you run a shock troop operation? Right? Can you airdrop people into Minnesota, Oklahoma? Alabama. I mean, do you have a Southern strategy at this point? I think by this point we all kind of understand that Sanders is really focusing heavily on the caucus states. That's where they think they'll do well. But again, going back to Nevada, that doesn't look good for him because that organizing inside the caucuses, he closed a gap, right? But you're closing a gap in every state at this point. I mean, he closed, as he pointed out, he said he had like a 25-point gap, and he knocked it down to 5 or 6.
Right.
That's good. By any other standard, anyone with the label socialist in their name in American politics, running for any kind of national office, closing a gap, that's monumental. But we're at the point now where it's like, okay, can you get to the 2183 delegates? All right, now we're getting into, can you make it real? And that's where is the strategy paying off? And it didn't quite make it there in Nevada. It came just this shy.
Imagine what we would be saying if Bernie had won Nevada. Right?
Yeah.
We'd be saying the wheels are really coming off the Clinton wagon. I mean, she had to win Nevada, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, a win for her was much, much more important in a sense than a win for Bernie.
How much of this had to do with her sort of reconfiguring her campaign, right? Because that is something that she had said she was going to do, and do we have a chance to see that get put into action for Nevada, or is that really going to come into play?
Well, we saw, Jeff Zeleny on our team has been out there, has been following the Democrats, and he made a great observation on Saturday just before the caucuses opened. He said that if this comes to, if she wins on Saturday and he loses, it will be because she spent the last 36 hours or so just bombarding Nevada, spending all her time there. And you can see, what's interesting too, the exit polling is great because you can also see when people are making decisions. And I think for the Democrats, it wasn't so much, a lot of people had made up their minds earlier. So it's sort of a two-part thing. About 80%, I think, had made up their mind earlier than the last week. It's a two-parter. It's that 4 months of organizing plus the finish. They have the strong close. She puts in that effort. She's got the big dog out on the trail with her. I mean, he might stumble every now and then and say things that, some spicy language or something, but But, people like that. And it's better than her saying it.
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So Bernie Sanders lost the African-American vote in Nevada by about 50 points. He won the millennial vote in Nevada. Not enough of them turned out to vote, but he won the millennial vote by 50, 60 points. And according to our CNN polls, entrance polls, he actually won the Latino vote.
Yeah.
What's going on?
He made, they made a great push there. I was on a call they did with their Latino surrogates just before the caucuses opened on Saturday. Representative Grijalva, a couple of Arizona leaders, a state Senate leader from out there, former state Senate leader. They talked about their efforts, but also effectively countering the Clinton attacks, too. That's the other part of it. I think it was 53-45 was the entrance polling on a Latino.
Points, right.
And 8 points. That's good. It wasn't enough to make to offset, but that's 20% of the vote out there, according to the polling. So that's a good margin, and that bodes well in some of your western states. All right, maybe not so much in the South. It doesn't look like they've made any movement on the black vote. And that's a problem for them. They've been saying for months now that we understand it's a problem. We know we got to focus on this. South Carolina is huge, and he's got to perform there.
So Danny Glover, Ben Jealous, Cornel West, Killer Mike,
yeah,
Ta-Nehisi Coates, they don't add up to James Clyburn.
Well, is it being reflected in the polling? And is it reflected at the polls, more importantly? All right. It wasn't reflected at the polls in Nevada. Killer Mike, I had no idea about this, has been producing with LP.
Yeah.
I know, this is great.
Yeah.
I like learning something at this cycle.
I know
it's a strange election cycle.
It's a totally strange election cycle. But Killer Mike, I think, is a really interesting associate for Bernie, not so much because of the African American vote, but also for the young vote, right? Like young people know Run the Jewels. They know who Killer Mike is.
Right.
They know all the music, right? So on one hand, it's interesting that he's got, a prominent African American like Killer Mike who's been there sort of supporting Bernie from the beginning, but at the same time, I think it appeals more to young people.
Absolutely. It's fascinating to see that. Can you turn it around? Is there that split? That's sort of the Black Lives Matter versus the original civil rights generation. The Clyburn versus
It's the Black Lives Matter versus the Black Caucus.
Oh, that's that's it.
There we go. Tom LoBianco here from CNN, following this 2016 race, particularly on the Bernie Sanders campaign. 866-55 Press. Can Bernie go on to do well on Super Tuesday? That's his next goal. And then all the way, 866-55 Press.
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
Today, in this country, we are having a conversation about police violence, the killing of black men, and what all that means. It is sad that this is happening and that every day there's a new incident to cause us to keep thinking about it and talking about it. But it is extraordinary that the American people are having to deal with this every day, whether you're watching CNN or MSNBC, Fox, or ABC News. All the news channels are talking about police violence and what does that mean against black people. Many people probably look at that, certainly have looked at it in the past, and they have said that these poor black men are doing bad things, and that's why they are ending up in confrontations with police. without any understanding of their lives of these poor black young men. Part of what has been going on for decades is that poor black people live in communities that suffer from hyper-surveillance of the police. The police are more likely to be in their communities. The police are more likely to arrest them. The police are more likely to stop them even if they're not doing anything. And that is what is so hard for the American people to believe, that you would get stopped and searched and arrested by the police and not doing anything. But this is starting to come out as people are telling the stories over and over again. But this has been the condition, this hyper-surveillance by police, making it more likely for people to get a record, to be known by the police, and then once they get in the system, it is almost impossible to get out because of the whole system of being on parole and missing an appointment or fraternizing with a person who has a criminal record, getting you right back in the jail, and then going back again and again and again. This is coming to be seen by the American people in a way that it has never been seen before. But why are people in these communities in the first place? That's getting peeled away. People are there because of housing discrimination. They are there because this is the only place where affordable housing can be found. They are there because that's where their families live, and people are drawn to being in communities where they are comfortable. The combination keeps people in these low-income communities where they are an easy target for hyper-surveillance and then everything that comes from it. And so as we think about these issues, we have to understand that while you as an individual in this society, as a white individual, you may not carry personal racism, but that does not keep the system from operating in a racist way.
I grew up in the housing projects of Cleveland. I didn't even know that life could be any better than it was. Education for me has been a way to get away from the agony of what was normal life. I want to be able to impact the community, not just look back on where I came from, but to reach back to where I came from and pull some people up with me. My name is David, and I am your dividend.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tom LoBianco with us from CNN. Emma Roller from the New York Times coming up next. Tom, you got to get back to CNN, and we only have about a minute left here. But let's look quickly. Republicans now move into Nevada. After a big win in South Carolina, does Donald Trump have it wrapped up?
It's it's hard to say wrapped up at this point, but it's hard to deny that he looks like the front runner at this point. Double digits in South Carolina, big lead going into Nevada. He wins Nevada, and then he dominates. If he does on Tuesday, he dominates the next 4 days of coverage, give or take, heading into the Super Tuesday, the SEC primary. That's. Momentum is a big thing, and if Rubio and Cruz can't punch through out there, it's still Trump's.
And even in Nevada, I mean, he's got, a 20-point lead, and he hasn't even really campaigned there. I mean, he's had an event here or there, right?
Yeah, I mean, you don't see him out there very much. But he's going to win. He's going to win
Nevada. One thing he has proven is that he can translate rallies into voters.
Absolutely.
Supporters at rallies into voters. Right?
Absolutely. Across the board. New Hampshire, you could dismiss it if it was a one-off. South Carolina just backs it right up.
Double-digit win in South Carolina.
Yeah.
You can't discount that, man.
Oh, man. All right, well, I'll see you around the ranch, man.
Yeah, likewise.
CNN brand. All right, thanks, Tom, so much.
Awesome. Thanks, Bill. Thanks, Steve.
This is the Bill Press Show.
I have run these canyons for 6 million years. I have traveled from the Rocky Mountains to the deserts, through scorching heat and freezing cold, from the land of the dinosaurs to fields of food.
I lend my hand to 7 states, 2 countries, 9 national parks,
and 36 million people across an arid West.
I am not the strongest or the largest, but I am the hardest working.
People love me.
My playfulness,
My beauty.
my power,
My life. But I don't think I can offer any more.
I am tired.
I am tired,
tapped,
and tied. Of the hundreds of major rivers in the world, I am one of the few who no longer kisses the sea.
Battles to harness my soul have been won and lost. Use me wisely, and I will sustain you.
Use me like you have, and I will break. My name
is
Red. The Grand River Red. The American Nile.
The Canyon Maker. I am the Colorado River.
And I am the most endangered river in America.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Calls me googly eyes.
You know you're beautiful, right? You know that?
Even you are beautiful. I got bullied for wearing glasses. Share if you're against bullying.
We put it out there, just took off. 3 million people have shared this post. Don't let bullies get you down. I stand with you. Our whole family's wearing glasses. I wear glasses and I'm proud.
I even have the army on my team.
All the kind comments brought my child joy. I don't feel thank you is enough.
Next.
Love it. I love,
It's sleek and
it is sleek is the word.
Yeah, right.
We were going for sleek. I'm glad to hear that.
But anyhow, so we want to name it, and we've been asking people to suggest names anyhow. So my nephew Michael's suggestion is that we name it the Burn Ward. BERN. Or yes, pretty clever. I think very good. Maybe the best suggestion so far. But he didn't send a check. We may put the name of the studio up to the highest bidder. Because we're capitalists like everybody
why not?
else, right? Exactly. And at I guess I'll do.
Yeah, we're gonna do that later. Let's just move on.
Let's just move on. We'll distract it. It's live radio. You are heading down to South Carolina. I want to talk to you about that tomorrow for the Times. But before you do, very interesting piece in the New York Times last week on the op-ed page by you saying, "Let Ohio vote first." How dare you take the first vote in the nation away from Iowa?
I know. Well, first of all, I have to defend myself and say I am a Midwesterner. I'm from Wisconsin originally. I actually went to school in Iowa for 1 year and then went to University of Wisconsin. So I'm not an Iowa hater. I love Iowa. That aside, there are some real demographic problems, I argue, in this piece. Just in terms of, it comes down to how extremely white Iowa and New Hampshire are, and they take up so much bandwidth of our political coverage for the first, one half of the presidential election cycle. And only now are you seeing candidates sort of turn to more diverse states, Nevada and South Carolina, and then on to Super Tuesday. So in this piece, I sort of argue, why not let a more diverse Midwestern state go first? Ohio is both culturally diverse, economically diverse. It sort of mirrors the national average, whereas Iowa and New Hampshire, they're both 90% white compared to the national average of about 62% white. And I argue that has sort of skewed the process to, not only demographically, but in terms of candidates having to pander to ethanol interests. That was a big one that we saw. And just other sort of very specific interests that take up a lot of bandwidth but don't really matter to the majority of voters.
I think you are absolutely spot on. But other than, put it this way, anything other than Iowa or New Hampshire, right? But as why it won't happen. These politicians, they don't have the guts to stand up.
That's the thing. What would it take for something like this to happen? Because it makes so much sense. It makes too much sense. That's why it's not going to happen.
Either for the DNC or for the RNC to change the rules.
Right, which is not going to happen because no one wants to annoy or make enemies of the now cottage industries of political operations in Iowa and New Hampshire. So a fascinating part of the history here is one man, Bill Gardner, has been the Secretary of State in New Hampshire since the early 70s, I think, 1972. And that is coincidentally when it was written into New Hampshire state law that New Hampshire will be the first in the nation primary.
Yeah.
And he has sort of held on to that first in the nation status with an iron grip, and he is the defender of the first in the nation status and has, both Iowa and New Hampshire have threatened to pretty much leapfrog any other state that dares to go before them. So we could even, if Ohio, for some reason, that's the other thing is that I talked to the Ohio Secretary of State, and he was careful to say, we're a swing state, we get plenty of attention, I'm fine where we are now, which made me sort of want to argue even more that they should get the first vote because they don't want it so bad. You know what I mean? But basically, Iowa and New Hampshire have both threatened to just leapfrog any other state, pretty much.
I think another way to go to suggest that I would suggest would be regional primaries. Have a Midwest, have a Southwest, Southeast, Northwest, Northeast. Whatever you plains, you divide them up, and they would be multiple states in each case, so you don't have everybody focusing on New Hampshire or everybody focused for 6 months on Iowa, right? For 150,000 people or however many vote. And it would it would force the candidates to tailor their message to a broader audience and not get tied into these one-state issues.
Yeah.
But most importantly, what are we going to do with the hashtags? Right? Because New Hampshire has the first in the nation hashtag, right? We got to make sure.
R.I.P. hashtag FITN.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Just one quick story, and then we'll move on. But just to show you how impossible this is, 100 years ago, when I was the Democratic State Chair of California and a member of the Democratic National Committee, I came back here to Washington for I was on the Rules Committee meeting. Mm-hmm. And at the Rules Committee meeting, the State Chair of Delaware made a motion to take the first primaries away from Iowa and New Hampshire. Stunned the room.
Wow.
By doing that. And then we went around the room and people were talking. What further stunned the room is when the state chair of California, namely me, with more votes than anybody else, agreed with him, seconded the motion, and between Delaware and California, we carried the day and voted to change the rules and take it away from them. Actually passed it in the Rules Committee of the DNC. We took a lunch break. The Clinton White House sent all of their heavy-duty hitters in. The word got out. They sent everybody down from the White House. And we came back from break, and the chairman of the committee said, we're going to revisit this motion. And they voted again. And they won the day. They reversed. But
wow.
we won for that. But it just shows
the tiny victory.
Yeah.
The power of the party.
Yeah.
You know, when they want to hold on to it. Yeah.
That's amazing.
That's interesting.
But I thought it was a Pyrrhic victory, but I loved it. So, what's going on in South Carolina? What are you going down there for? It's a nice place, but
I have never been to South Carolina before.
Oh, Peter!
She's going to my hometown of Charleston.
Yes.
I already told her I'm gonna make her a list. It's like my duty when reporters go on the road to, especially South Carolina, to tell them where to eat. There are a lot of great places. You're going to do really well in Charleston.
I'm excited, but maybe not for like fitting into my jeans after this.
Oh, it's
trip.
a terrible idea. It's a terrible idea. There's so many great places though.
But I mean, this South Carolina primary, how do you see it coming out of Nevada?
So for the Democrats, you mean? Well, the sort of conventional wisdom is that now that we are done with Iowa and New Hampshire, which are highly white, small population states where Bernie Sanders really defeated expectations in both of those, that now Hillary Clinton will sort of grab the brass ring and work her connections made over years with minority voters, Latino voters in Nevada, though it seems like she didn't really run away with the Latino vote in Nevada as much as people were predicting.
I think the CNN entrance polls show that she lost it by 8 points. Now, the Clinton campaign says that's not what our internal polling shows, but they haven't given any evidence of that.
Right, which is interesting. But now turning to South Carolina, there's been really ratcheting up a battle of surrogates and endorsements on with Clinton and Sanders. I mean, Jim Clyburn endorsing Hillary Clinton was probably, and also John Lewis, recruiting black leaders in that community to their side. And both of them have been doing a spate of events at historically black colleges and universities. But still, it seems like Sanders has an advantage in the millennial segment of voters, but that doesn't mean he's going to win South Carolina. And in fact, Clinton's been polling ahead of him, in the 10s and 20s.
No, I mean, look, I'm a Bernie supporter. I think everybody ought to recognize Hillary Clinton's going to win South Carolina. And the focus ought to be on Super Tuesday.
He's already going to Virginia, so he's focusing on Super Tuesday now.
Right. That's where his focus ought to be. The question is, how much can he narrow the margin, I think, in South Carolina? Emma Roller here with us from the New York Times, talking Democratic. Where do we go in the Democratic Party after Nevada and the Republican Party after South Carolina? 866-55-PRESS, our toll-free number. We'll take a quick break. Be right back.
Your place to talk about the 2016 election. This is the Bill Press Show.
On opening body bags after Typhoon Haiyan. I can only imagine it like unearthing a scab. Zipper breaks open one by one. Mothers trying to dig through themselves an umbilical cord to lend life to a limp ghost There is not enough relief here to hide the scent of what this child used to be. The coconut trees are not high enough to see over the inside out that was made here. Bags do not have the honor of being called burial plots. Churches ain't supposed to be mausoleums. Tacloban was morphed into ground zero. And I watch this while it snows in Madison, Wisconsin, a place where it's easier to live as a rodent than it is to be a colored person. This place drowns my people in a different way. I inhabit both places like Jigsaw corpse trying to find itself whole. These brown boys in Tacloban aren't my cousins, but I want to carry them to safety. These brown girls in Tacloban aren't my daughters, but I want to tell them they're still growing after this choking, but I'm still an ocean away, a language farther from root. A skin tone lighter than the sand, born there, raised here, home nowhere. To watch this storm is a sorry excuse for mourning. It is to need the sun desperately. It is to realize that your body is in one country while your grief is in another. To look at your house, walk to a river, and come back to no house is to be Filipino. To look at your motherland hurting from a TV screen is to be Filipino-American. To watch my islands through the blue eyes of Anderson Cooper is the most American I have ever felt, but I still cry for them. And I still pray for them because God tried to make them Atlantis before they were ready to be a myth just yet, because rebuilding is the Filipinos' most intrinsic muscle memory, but most painful trauma, because relief is just a word whose Tagalog translation I don't even know, because this poem is all I can give for my country, bleeding in salt water. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord keeps trying to drown us. Hallowed be thy bodies. Thy kingdom come down in waves and winds, on earth as it is destroyed. Take us this day our daily rations, and forgive those who have tried to kill us, as we forgive those who have tried to kill us. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us whose skin has always meant sin now, and at the hour of our death. Amen.
To talk about, but we should. Okay, so who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Before the top of the hour, visiting with Emma Roller here in studio with us. Writes for the opinion page, op-ed, I should say, page of the New York Times. And also soon out on the road to South Carolina for the Democratic primary this Saturday. What are you going to be looking for down there? I mean, what is your angle? You obviously have a plan to go down there.
My plan is to try to talk to a lot of young voters. That's as far as I've gotten so far in conceiving this, because it's really interesting how Bernie Sanders has sort of captivated younger voters in the same way that Barack Obama did in 2008. Obviously, there's a lot of differences between their campaigns, but I think it is a problem for the Clinton campaign, and she hasn't really settled on a message that will maybe draw in the Sanders supporters who...
What is it about the Sanders campaign, do you think, that is so appealing to young voters? And it's true. I mean, everybody says, well, she got 70% of the African-American vote in Nevada, and he only got 22%. But he got like 82%, I think it was, of people under 30. Why?
Right. I think that people in this election in general have really grossly underestimated the appeal of sort of fringe ideas, and not to equate Donald Trump with Bernie Sanders, because they're obviously on complete polar opposite ends of the spectrum, but just the same sort of outsider appeal that Donald Trump has. People underestimated that, and people have also underestimated that millennials, a lot of them have semi-positive associations with the ideas that Sanders is putting forth, with quasi-socialist ideas. And I think a lot of that grows out of the aftermath of the recession, of people graduating with mountains of student debt. That's something that I can personally attest to.
In other words, free community college, right? Healthcare for everybody. I mean, what he talks about, right? The breaking up the banks, smaller banks, living wage for everybody.
And sort of like with President Obama's appeal in 2008, he's seen as more of a pure ideological representative. And it's like Bernie Sanders has not really shifted dramatically in tone since, he was elected to Congress. It's more like the culture has coalesced around him, if that makes sense.
But I think with my own read on it is I mean, look, it's in a sense it's heart and head, right?
Right.
And these young people are following their heart, and their heart tells them, we want to think big things. We want to believe. Our aspirations, right? And don't tell us we can't do this. I mean, Errol Lewis, talk show host from New York, a friend of ours. I was on with him Saturday night on CNN, and I was making this point, and he said, "Yeah, it's Bernie says hope, and Hillary says nope, hope and nope." Or it's Bernie, as I put it, Bernie says yes we can, and Hillary says no we can't. And I don't know. People don't like to hear that. It's sort of like your mother saying, "No, you can't date that guy because he's not good enough for you," right, or something.
Right,
Yeah.
and then Clinton's defenders would obviously have Jill Filipovic had a really great op-ed in the Times recently about this, about how the argument that Clinton can't really have that same sort of appeal as a female candidate. It would be great to have Elizabeth Warren or someone with the same sort of disheveled look about them who can sort of yell through his stump speeches as a female candidate, but Jill's argument was that female candidates can't really get away with that.
I think there's some truth to that. I do think there's some truth to that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But and now the test in South. But I think, as we indicated just a little before the break, I mean, when Bernie said Saturday night, he knew exactly what he was saying when he said on to Super Tuesday. And a lot of people said, "What about South Carolina?" Well, he knows South Carolina is not his territory, so he's going to do as well as he can in South Carolina. But his real play to really make his mark next will be on Super Tuesday.
Right.
In those states where he believes he can do well. In Minnesota, in Colorado, in Massachusetts, in Vermont. And
so that is one really interesting distinction between how Sanders is running his campaign now and Barack Obama's campaign in 2008. It was really... Obviously, he had community organizing experience. He recruited people like Jeremy Byrd and Anton Gunn, who was a South Carolina operative, and had people in the state from South Carolina, had college students from Furman University dropping out to work on his campaign. Both Sanders and Clinton don't seem to have that level local organizing. So I think that could be a problem to just be sort of seen as carpetbagging.
All right, you will be our eyes and ears in South Carolina. All right, so we're going to check in with you once you get down there.
Sounds good.
Thanks, Emma.
Thank
all right,
you.
Thanks for coming in. And Ohio, I'm on board with that plan. Marada from the New York Times, and I'll be back with today's quick parting shot.
Can't catch the entire show? Listen to BP in 3, where we turn 3 hours into 3 minutes. Find it every day at BP Show on Twitter or at BillPressShow.com.
For my 6th birthday, my grandpa gave me a Rubik's Cube. I'll always be able to remember its edges, hold it in my hands, heft the weight of an overwhelming problem. I remember him telling me about it. How Rubik's Cube has 43 quintillion, 252 quadrillion, 3 trillion, 274 billion, 489 million, 856,000 possibilities. He told me it can be really confusing sometimes. But to look at the center squares as a reminder of what color each side should be. Shift. We're celebrating his 50th wedding anniversary. He and Grandma are dancing a dance that only fragile legs and wrinkled hands know how to. That type of happiness took him 70 years to earn. The white side of the cube is solved. Shift. He tells me about how he met Grandma. His college friends had a sunset picnic. She was there, as beautiful as an unsolved puzzle. She was a red-headed scramble on an orange tile sky. Shift. The walls of the hospital are blue. The nurses explained that his memories had become jumbled. Strangers in family portraits, pictures with mismatched faces. Alzheimer's has made his mind into a Rubik's Cube. Shift. He's a highway patrolman. His car is white. No, it's blue. He worked there for 30 years. Some nights he still does. Time is a complicated algorithm. Shift. The pills he holds are yellow and red and green. The weight of their color causes his hand to drop. I try to shift his tiles back into place, but people don't have center squares. His mind is a hospital bed divided by 0. Shift. My sister's wedding is white, but he doesn't know why. Shift. World War II is every color. The South Pacific is blue. The islands are green. There is so much red. Shift. Grandpa, table, cube, name, scramble, California, guitar, grapefruit, highway, wedding bell, war, stick, shift rifles, South Pacific mirrors, shift, 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 shift. The temperature of his hands is blue. Death is colorless. I will always remember his edges. Hold him in my hands. Heft the weight of an overwhelming problem. I was unable to attend his funeral. I never found out the algorithm to solve him. A Rubik's Cube has over 43 quintillion possibilities. A casket only has one.
The Parting Shot with Bill Press. This is the Bill Press Show.
Well, yes, indeed. As we've been talking, Hillary Clinton won the Democratic caucuses in Nevada. Fair and square, a healthy 5 or 6 points over Bernie. But while he didn't win, Bernie Sanders still had a good day. Think of where he started less than a year ago, then think of all the advantages Hillary Clinton had over Bernie. And the fact that he did as well as he did is really stunning. Went from 40 points behind to only 5 points. Won 83% of young people, won 44% of color. As Bernie himself might say, that is huge. Now, a brief stop in South Carolina, and then it is on to Super Tuesday. That's it for today, folks. Have a good Monday. Come back and see us again tomorrow morning.
We'll be looking for you. This is the Bill Press Show.